welcome into the Friday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We have got a loaded show for you here today. Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet and the 31 Thoughts podcast dropping by at 7 o'clock. We'll look ahead to the NHL trade deadline with him and how that could affect the Nashville Predators. Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, will join us at 8 o'clock for the latest on the Tennessee Titans. Terry Crisp, the legend, joins us at 8:30, getting into a gigantic Predators win last night and weekend winners coming up at 9:30. It's not going to be a fun recap for me.
Oh, it's going to be a glorious recap. I think we might need two segments for that because I'm going to go through each one of my wins.
Are you?
Which, by the way, I got every one right.
Thank you.
And I'm going to carefully explain why I picked each one.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we build in enough time for that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can do that. Call your shot Friday as well. Free beer Friday trivia. Lots to come today here on the show. Ryan Porth is fired up. He's ready to go. The trivia question ready. The Masters update coming today. This is a big day for you, Ryan.
I mean,
Porth.
call your shot Friday,
Yeah.
Weekend winners, free beer Friday, the Masters update, and the Preds can't stop losing or winning. Excuse me.
Ryan Porth at it again early on in the
Don't
show.
stop believing. Don't stop losing, Preds. Will they ever win again?
That's right. Man,
Will they ever lose again?
what a performance last night for the Nashville Predators. 7-1 against the Detroit Red Wings. And if it sounds familiar, yes, it's not been that long since they also beat the Red Wings 7-1. Before we get hot and heavy into the game, the most amazing part about these 7-1 wins, none of us have gotten one right on Preds Pick the Click in either game. None of us.
14 goals, and so 8 possible goal scorers.
Yeah.
Between the listener, the three of us, twice.
Right.
Nothing.
Not a
Amazing.
thing.
Now, look, if Rocco Grimaldi eats up 4 of those goals,
Sure.
okay, that's a.
Arvidsson had 3 last night.
Well, I mean, Arvidsson's a perfectly fine player to pick. Mikhail
Sure.
Granlund is a player who gets picked a lot. Didn't get picked yesterday. I mean, it's getting to be like if you're a Predators player, you really hope you don't get picked.
Well, it was a swift punch to the face for me last night before the game even began. Eli Tolvanen didn't even play, and I selected him yesterday. And then about 35 minutes before the game, we found out he wasn't going to play. And I was like, well, if that doesn't sum up my year in Preds Pick the Click, here we are.
At least you didn't have to agonize during the game as Tolvanen hit
true.
like 3 posts on the
true.
power play. By the way, so lower body, do we have any idea, like, anything that do you recall from the last game, anything that happened to him?
Nope. Just
Block a shot off his leg or anything, or no?
Just par for the course with this group right now.
Yeah,
Everybody's getting hurt at some point, somewhere along the line here. So the injuries just continuing to mount up for the Predators, but so do the wins. They've won 11 out of their last 13 games. Really impressive last night, 7-1. Victor Arvidsson with the hat trick. And it was a game where, it's 0-0 after the first period. Detroit scores the first goal, and then all of a sudden the Predators get going. Arvidsson, the first goal he scored, it was a great save by Jonathan Bernier. Arvidsson kind of flubbed it a little bit on the shot that he had, but it found a way to bounce in the net. You get that first one. And then you get up 2-1 on a great shot by Eric Halla. And then, Matt Benning just gets absolutely run by Adam Ernie of the Red Wings. I thought it was the textbook definition of a major boarding penalty. He should have been kicked out of the game. And when they went to review it, I was like, okay, well, this will be a quick review. I don't know what they're looking at right here. And then you come back and you reverse it, and you make it a 2-minute minor. And all of a sudden, Olivier is getting a misconduct for jumping in and defending his teammate. Look, it doesn't affect me emotionally one way or another if the Predators win a game or not. I was irate at NHL officials that they changed that call. It was ridiculous.
I'd love to know the explanation on that. It makes 0 sense. It was a terrible, awful, dangerous hit. It's the definition of a major. Shoot, man. I'm watching that. I'm like, gosh, I'm thinking of Claude Lemieux, without the terrible outcome on that hit. That is – and good for Olivier for jumping in. And you know what? I'm fine with Olivier. That's fine. You want to try to keep that stuff out. You can give him the penalty. And, I guess John Hines said one bad word and he gets a bench minor, whatever. The reversing that call is one of the worst calls I've seen in any sport in officiating this year.
Which is saying something.
Unbelievable.
Which
Makes
is
no
saying
sense.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is awful. And we talked yesterday about John Hines and how he's pretty much been the same guy. Like, there's not much emotion that gets shown. He's very even-keeled. He was upset. Man, was he mad after that play. And I don't blame him. He was really mad. And
Yossi, too.
Yeah, I mean, and they should be. And I think it was obvious after that fired the Predators up, and they just went on to absolutely steamroll the Red Wings after that. But a ridiculous decision by the officials in that game last night. And the most amazing part is apparently there was no explanation given to John Hines on this play. Here's what Predators head coach John Hines had to say after the game last night.
Unfortunately, I didn't get an explanation. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but I never got an explanation of why that call occurred. And it's unfortunate when you see a guy get run like that from behind. Clearly should be a penalty, and then Ollie goes in and sticks up for him, and it winds up an even call.
And that was John Hines after the game last night. And look, as good as it was for the Predators last night, and you win the game 7-1, John Hines was still pretty visibly upset about that call, and he brought it up again at the end of the press conference too. Not a very happy man last night.
Well, there's a bigger picture. I mean, if one of his players did it, I think he'd be like, yeah, absolutely, get him out of there.
Yeah,
it's like, and this is again where we have no accountability. We have no one explaining anything. I don't care about like the ticky-tack penalty you called that cost this team that win or whatever. This is obvious stuff you need to answer for, because I don't think anybody who watches hockey at all would watch that play and say, "Oh, you got to reverse that."
Yeah.
Who would decide to do that?
I don't know.
I mean, why? It's ridiculous. It's not about this game, this team. It's like, take the jerseys off the players, put them in neutral jerseys. Every single time, 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000, that play is a major, and you're out of the frickin' game. I mean, Benning was luckily fine, but that's a serious injury that you're begging for.
What made it even worse in terms of how the review was going, the timing of it, and the broadcast, they're showing the trainer trying to snap Benning's neck back into place on the bench, and then they're like, oh, well, it's only 2 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like the trainer is literally trying to, be a chiropractor and get Benning's neck back into place, and then it's only 2 minutes.
It's like, I think sometimes literally, and I don't know that it actually happens this way, but this is the way it seems to me sometimes, and I know this is the way it seems to fans sometimes. It almost feels like the referees get in a circle and they look around and they're looking around and saying, oh, okay, so he's not hurt. Like, he's got up, he's skating. Well, if he's not hurt, why would we kick him out of the game?
Like
yeah,
which is not how you're supposed to officiate.
If a stretcher comes out, that's a 5 minute
you're going to be
game.
out. Yeah,
right.
That's ridiculous. That's not how the game should be officiated.
No, the play easily could have led to that, and if that play is allowed to, that play is just a minor penalty. That's the whole. I mean, you're doing things, you're making things heavily penalized to be a deterrent. I think you're probably right. Like, what's the outcome? Okay, but watch the replay one time.
That's what I don't understand. Like, I don't know how you watch that replay. And it's not like these guys are, brand new to the game of hockey. I don't know how you watch that replay and say, you know what? That's actually 2 minutes, not 5 minutes.
No, I mean, he easily could have broken his neck on that play.
Yeah. So a ridiculous call there by the officials last night. The Predators, though, they found a way to overcome it. Victor Arvidsson with the hat trick. I mean, you're going into the third period. You're up 3-1. Nick Cousins scores a goal from the slot. And then Arvidsson takes over in the third period. Great shot on the 2-on-1. Gets a penalty shot with a sick move in the penalty shot as well. But perhaps the goal of the night, Yakov Trenin. I mean, there were a lot of pretty goals last night by the Predators. You had
the
Granlund.
Haula backhand was
the Haula backhand.
The pass by Grimaldi on that play.
You had Granlund going like through 3 Red Wings through the neutral zone there.
Well, the Sissons pass on the Cousins goal too.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't that no look? I mean, behind the back?
Well, and it was also after he created the entire play with a monster hit. That was a classic, like, Sissons is a great hockey player, even though he doesn't score a lot. Yeah, that was a great play.
I'd have to give the best goal of the night to Trenin, though. I mean, the walking in, the toe drag, bringing it around to your backhand and going roof. It was pretty nice. Number 5 on SportsCenter.
Yeah,
top 10
5.
plays.
Not bad.
lots to choose from last night. We've talked about how this team can be offensively limited at times. They brought out the bag last night with some of these pretty goals.
Who needs Philip Forsberg when you've got Yakov Trenin going
true.
between the legs?
That is true.
And this is also
Stay seated, Phil.
This season has kind of become like what payback to the Red Wings over the last few years, because they're not gonna, they're gonna go back to playing them twice next year.
Yeah.
Barely ever seeing them, but it's kind of like maybe getting a little bit of built-up frustration out on some of these losses that have made no sense in the last few years.
Well, it was also, I thought last night, about halfway through that third period, the Red Wings were done. I mean, they just totally pulled the plug last night, and the Predators kept on coming. I mean, that's what you got to do. And right now, I mean, they're just playing with a ton of confidence, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next segment. But there was a noticeable relief on Victor Arvidsson's face last night. Like, number one, to be back in the game, after that collision with Kirby Dach, as soon as it happened, I was like, man, how long is he going to be out? Like, that looks like it could be really bad. And then you kind of work through it all, and he ends up missing one game because of it. So it's pretty incredible that he found his way back in here. But, I mean, he had 5 goals on the season coming into the game last night. And we talked about, he doesn't look like he had the same burst, and he's been around the net and has just had some bad luck or has not executed on shots that we've grown accustomed to seeing him score on. Last night, I mean, he gets a good bounce to go for him on the first one, and then all of a sudden he looks like Victor Arvidsson of old on the other two. There was a pretty noticeable relief on his face last night.
Right, and earlier he had a great chance, and I forget who made the pass. It was a really good pass, but it was a lot of burst from Arvidsson, and he was right there on the doorstep, and it was another one of those, gosh, he just can't buy a break, and then it all opens up for him. His birthday, too. What birthday was that for him?
Is that 28? I need to look.
I'm trying to look right now, but my computer is bad. But, yeah, birthday hat trick.
28.
So, 28 years old.
You need a new computer, Joe.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, his T has been broken for 3 months.
That's true.
Yeah. Actually, I tried my T the other day, and it's kind of getting a little bit better.
It's healing. The T on the keyboard is healing.
Yeah, the T is healing.
That's right.
My wife wants her keyboard back. I mean, she keeps asking me. So,
hey, maybe that's something you can do. Get that thing
in case you guys were wondering.
That's right. All right, so we are off and running here on the show today, and the question for you is simple. Do you believe in the Nashville Predators? Winners of 11 out of their last 13. The trade deadline coming up on Monday. Have you officially become a believer in this team? Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We'll talk about that coming up next. But right now, I got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel, and I'm so excited that baseball is back. There's nothing quite like watching a game with some great weather on the table like we have right now, a cold drink, and a little action on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So if you've never bet on baseball before, now is the perfect time to give it a shot. FanDuel is letting new users swing for the fences risk-free. You can get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. And once you've got an account, you can get up to $25 back each day if your same-game parlay bet falls one leg short. This way you can combine multiple baseball bets for an even bigger win all season long. There's a reason FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook. The app is simple to use. They've got great odds on all different betting markets, fun bet types like the same-game parlay, and always-on promotions to let you get more action out of every single game day. And when you win on FanDuel, they'll pay your winnings safely in as little as 24 hours. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up with promo code ROB to get in on the action. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only for a risk-free bet. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Here's a play across, and a try there by Arvidsson does not go, but on the second try it does, and now the game is tied at 1. Predators come back 2-on-1. The shot of the score! Victor Arvidsson makes it 5-1, his second of the night. De Keyser came back. Here's Arvidsson breaking in, slowing down, backhands, and he scores. Victor Arvidsson scores with a penalty shot, and it's 6-1. The Hattie for Arvy.
How rewarding is a night like this to see puck go in for you?
No, it was awesome. I almost missed the first one and it went in, but it's awesome. Like I've been around the net a lot and I'm trying to create chances and had bounces not going my way, and I think today they did, and I think I played well, and I just got to keep it going. And I got some great passes from Kazji and Louis on the breakout there. So it was nice to see him going.
Man, I saw her face.
Victor Arvidsson with a hat trick last night, his third career hat trick at the NHL level, and the Predators destroy the Detroit Red Wings 7-1 last night. They've won 11 out of their last 13 games. And a good night last night for the Predators, by the way. The Blackhawks lose in regulation to the Dallas Stars. Tampa Bay beats Columbus again. So you look at the standings right now, the Predators are 4 points clear of the Blackhawks. Now, the Blackhawks did lose to the Dallas Stars in regulation. So Dallas still 3 games in hand on the Predators. They're at 38 points, so 7 points behind Nashville right now. But a little bit of separation for the Predators at the 4th spot after the game last night between the Stars and the Blackhawks, and with Columbus losing to Tampa Bay as well. So a good night all in all for the Predators last night, and a good night for Victor Arvidsson. Joe, you were kind of going through some of his stats at the break, and you think back to a couple years ago, he had 34 goals. What was it, 58 games where he had 34 goals?
I'd forgotten that he missed 24 games. I mean, I knew that it was a heck of an efficient year, but 34 goals in 58 games. He's got 23 goals in 97 games since, and that includes the hat trick last night.
Yeah. So
that's a big difference.
It's a big difference, and the rate has gone down, and you heard him talk about it there in that clip to begin the segment. Like, he's been around the net, and he's been, I think, getting some chances this year now. I think also he's not been getting as many chances as you've grown accustomed to seeing from Victor Arvidsson. So it's not like he's just been robbed every single game. I think there's been a lot of room for improvement in terms of the quality of looks that he needs to get. But last night, I do wonder if something like that, if a game like that can be a springboard, because it's not like Victor Arvidsson's forgotten how to play hockey and has forgotten how to score. I mean, he's been a guy that has played a certain way since he's gotten into the league. Now, the question I've had for the last year has been, all right, I get that the skill set is still there. Is the speed still there? Like, is the burst still there? And it looked like last night that burst was there. Now, can you sustain that moving forward?
Well, I mean, last year, I thought that he lost a step, and then I thought it came back in the bubble.
Agreed.
That's what it looked like to me. So I'm sure it was related to he's had quite a few different injuries.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I agree. He looked fast last night. Another interesting thing with him, I don't know exactly what this says, but his first 2 full seasons, of course, he was 61-point guy 2 years in a row. And he had 30 assists in 16-17 and 32 assists in 17-18 to go with, 31 and 29 goals. And since then, his assists have been 14, 13, 13. What is that? Now, I know that isn't necessarily passing. That could be just creating more opportunities with his speed that create rebounds. Then he gets an assist. I don't know. How do you decipher that?
I would say a lot of it's that too. Like, I've never thought of Arvidsson as like this gifted playmaker.
He's not he's looking to score.
Yeah,
which is what you want him to do.
Sure, and he's shooting from every angle. And I thought the 2-on-1 for his second goal last night was exactly what you want to see. You've got the odd man rush. There was room for him to pass if he wanted to, but he looked the goalie off and then just fired one. I mean, it was aggression. It was a perfect shot. That's what you want to see from Victor Arvidsson. I know he's received some criticism this year from maybe winding up and firing that slap shot from too wide or taking some low percentage shots, and I do think he's been guilty of that sometimes where the odds are you're not scoring and basically all you're doing is just have either you're missing the net and the puck's going the other way, or you're just giving up on a possession right there with some of these shots. I thought that shot and the decision on the 2-on-1 by Arvidsson last night was perfect. I mean, you can't ask for better.
Right. That's what he does well. I mean, and that's another thing on him. So last 4 seasons, shooting percentage 12.6, 11.7, 17.4 in that 34-goal year. Last year, 11.8. This year, even after last night, he's at 6.3, which I would think would suggest what you just said, right? To some extent, is choices.
Yep. And that was a word that John Hines used in the press conference last night. I mean, he made good choices with his shots. And to me, that's kind of what that's talking about there is, kind of picking your spots of when to attack. Because I think, the simple idea if you're, a casual fan would be, well, just shoot every time you can. Like, the more shots you have, the more chance you have to score. It's not always the case. Like, you need to be –
Quality shots are good.
Quality shots are good, and we always say it, like, no puck on net is a bad play. And I suppose that's true, but there are some where you're taking an awful big risk that it's not going to work out.
Right. Well, and it's like the Red Wings' 1 goal last night, completely not on Saros at all, but it was a perfect, you get traffic and you time it up and put it up there, and you never know. Those are good, but when a goalie has a clean look and you're just firing away sometimes, it's not going to go well for you.
So the question now is, they've won 11 out of their last 13 games, and the trade deadline is coming up on Monday. Are you a believer, officially, in this Predators team? Now, the schedule about to get a little bit more difficult. Tampa Bay coming into town this weekend. You've got Dallas on the schedule in between those 2 games as well. So the Red Wings are no longer going to be walking through that door for the remainder of this season, and the schedule about to get a little bit tougher as they move ahead here. Do you believe in this Nashville Predators team? Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Let's go to Twitter. Josh on Twitter says, I really, really want to, but also would be hesitant to do any buying between now and on Monday. And let's be clear. Believing in this team doesn't necessarily mean that we say go out and buy.
Well, and what does believing in this team mean? I mean, I think there's different definitions of that too.
Sure.
But yeah, we were just talking about off the air. Like, what would they even buy? Like, what? Like, I have not even given that like a half second of thought. Like, that would be. Like, first of all, you have like half your lineup that's out right now.
Well, and the first name that people will point to in terms of players that would be available to buy,
Don't say it.
It's Taylor Hall, and I'd stay away from that, man.
No.
Stay far away.
It's not been good.
Zero chance or interest. Yeah, no, I don't think of. Do you believe in this team? Should David Poile buy? No, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what he would do. They got to have enough tough choices ahead when everybody gets healthy. Assuming that happens.
If anything, you might need to go find a defenseman.
Yeah, you might need to find a defenseman.
Because they're dropping like flies.
That's true, but David Ferentz looked all right for a college kid last night. I thought he did some good things out there. He looked poised. He made some nice plays in the offensive zone.
With the old Lewington. Yeah, Lewington looked good last night, too. Nice pass.
He almost got that one home.
He did.
Yeah.
Cut to the net. So maybe they're good on defensemen. They've played 14 of them at this point, so why not?
I mean, they are getting Ellis back soon, right?
We think
they're getting Fabro. Has there been a Fabro like it's a week to week?
He was just out yesterday.
We have no timetable.
But that's not. Then it's probably not long.
What about
right?
Borowiecki?
Who knows when he comes back? I don't know.
Meanwhile, the nastiest play that easily could have resulted in injury. Benning's right back up and playing last night.
Yeah,
I'm sure the Preds were shocked to see that because it never happens that way.
He didn't get hurt. Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
But hey, just a minor. No problem with that hit.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous on that play. But
do we know names? Do we have names on this? I want names.
I can go back and look at the sheet. I can go find it. It's not Tim Peel.
Yeah, we know.
I'm confident in that.
We know it's not Tim Peel.
And if Tim Peel was officiating, he probably wouldn't have made a makeup call for Nashville.
Wow. Maybe not. Would have gone to Detroit.
I hope Tim Peel was watching that last night and screaming at his TV at how bad it was.
I hope he was too. When we come back, it's going to be interesting to see how the Predators handle this moving forward because, as we've just mentioned, hopefully some bodies coming back, some players that will be available for the Predators sometime in the not-too-distant future. So when everyone is healthy, what would your ideal lineup look like for the Predators as they continue through this run here. We'll discuss that next. Take your thoughts as well on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
This hour of Robby and Rexrode is brought to you by Train. Get a great deal this spring on a new Train heating and cooling system. At Train, they test so it runs. Visit traininfo.com to find your local dealer and learn more. It's hard to stop a train.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing the Nashville Predators, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe, let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wayne from Spring Hill texts in, here comes the real test for me as far as believing. Can the Preds hang with the division leaders for the remainder of the season. I think that's a popular sentiment. Can you start to play well more consistently against the Tampa Bays and the Carolinas and the Floridas of the world? We're going to begin to find out the answer to that question this weekend.
Right, so 9 of these 11 wins, 11 of 13, and 9 of the 11 are against Detroit, Chicago, Dallas. Now, to me, I only throw out the Detroit ones, really. Right? Like I feel like they're Chicago and Dallas. You're competing with those teams.
Sure.
Those are good wins. Okay, fine. Detroit, yeah, you should do that. And hey, they figured out now how to do that with the Red Wings. Remember earlier in the year they couldn't even get that done. So, do you believe? Do you believe what? Do you believe that they can make the playoffs? Certainly,
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you believe what extent of belief are we talking about here?
Well, so you and I have been pretty consistent on we still feel like this team needs to sell, and they're going to be an underdog. Whether it's Florida, Carolina, Tampa Bay, they would be an underdog heading into those series. Now, I think you and I would both feel better against Carolina and Florida than we would Tampa Bay, even though I think Carolina is really good and they continue to be.
And the
really
matchup
good.
doesn't seem great.
And the matchup does not seem great at all. But are we perhaps maybe not giving this team enough credit for how dangerous they can be? I mean, you've got Arvidsson. He plays well last night. You've still got a lot of players out. If the buy-in remains the same, and that's a big part of this to me, is like, is the buy-in the same? Is the style of play the same when some of these guys come back? Because if it is, are you and I maybe underrating how dangerous this team can be in the playoffs? I think that's an interesting question.
Maybe.
A question that I keep thinking about more and more with each passing game, I'll be honest with you.
Maybe, but it's a big if, I think. Because it's going to be fascinating. When people come back, are they going to play the exact same way and just be more dangerous? Because, I mean, obviously, this has come about by adversity, by losing people, by some people getting an opportunity, and there's clearly like a special chemistry thing going on with this team.
Yeah.
So when you change the people, you change the chemistry. Now you were adding skill and talent, So like the best case scenario is everyone has figured out this is how we have to play, and so the people coming back are bought in and play that way. Also, now you have more offensive punch. Okay, well that's a dangerous team, but is it possible that you mess up the chemistry and lose something in what you're bringing back? I think that's possible too.
I think it is too, and that's what you've got to be careful of. What is why I think John Hines has got an interesting decision to make coming up here, because I do think we're close to seeing some of these guys come back in here. Maybe it is Matt Duchene or Ryan Ellis. I'm not sure how far away Philip Forsberg is at this point, but I do think we're close to seeing some of these veteran guys come back in here. And the question that I've got is, once that happens and these guys become available, who comes out? Like, who is coming out of this lineup right now? And John Hines joined us yesterday on the show and just talked about this turnaround from the Predators team and the young players that have come in to help lead the way with this turnaround. I found his comments to be very interesting. Here's what Predators head coach John Hines had to say yesterday here on our show.
You mentioned it, John. I know you mentioned before the veterans kind of, at times, whether you're hurt or whatever the case may be, you're seeing this energy, you're seeing the urgency and the exact way you want guys to play from these young guys, and maybe getting a little bit of a boost from that. I mean, how much of that, how big of a piece of the pie is that from this success and this run that you guys are on right now?
It's the biggest. We didn't have the urgency. We didn't play with the urgency, the competitiveness, the speed, the consistency that you need to win in this league in the beginning of the year. It was, it's not a structuralist, or you can play any system that you want to play, but to win in the NHL, you have to play with high compete, urgency to your game, hunger. You have to be willing to do the work, and what I mean, you have to be willing to forecheck, you have to be willing to skate, you have to be willing to play physical, and you have to do it night in and night out. And that's what the team has done through this process. And now what's been nice is when you've seen players come back into the lineup, and I think they see, and it's easy to say that the team has had success. So if players do get in, this is the standard. And we did not have that type of urgency, intensity, and work ethic in the beginning of the year, and therefore we didn't win as much as we wanted to win, and now we have it, and we're allowing ourselves to have success because there is more urgency and competitiveness in our team.
So that was John Hines yesterday here on the show. And, Joe, you and I talked about that after. I found those comments to be very interesting, talking about the urgency, and it just wasn't there to begin the season, and the young players coming in providing that, and maybe some of the veteran guys following suit after that. I'm interested to see, like, does that carry over if you get some of these veteran guys back? Like, to me, it's difficult for me still to imagine – Duchesne coming back and being available and him not being in the lineup. Like, he's going to be there. He's going to be playing. Philip Forsberg, obviously. He's going to be there. I mean, you're talking about, these guys at forward especially that are highly paid and that you want to see in there. The defense, to me, is interesting right now. I mean, this is how they started the game last night on defense. Roman Josi, Ben Harpur, Ekholm, Benning, Jeremy Davies, Lewington, and Ferentz. That's a lot of inexperience in that group last night. So I guess the question is, as you look at this group right now, factoring in the deadline, factoring in everything that's coming up here in the next week or two where maybe some guys are available again and available to play, who do you leave in and who comes out of this lineup? That's going to be fascinating for John Hines to figure out.
Yeah. No, it's first of all, I agree. Like, I think Duchesne is back in when he's healthy. Forsberg is a no-brainer. We do know with John Hines that he's not afraid. I mean, early in his tenure, he's not afraid to go ahead and sit someone if they're not giving him what he's looking for. And I'm thinking specifically last year about Johansson, but he wasn't the only one. Who else did he?
I had a game where like Johansson, Forsberg, Duchesne, and Arvidsson were like benched.
Just sat everybody,
12 minutes.
Right? Just sort of made a little statement there.
Yeah.
So, I know that one line I'm not touching at all is the Sissons line.
Agreed.
The Herd line. Hammer. Shout out to Kara Hammer. I didn't even explain the Herd line because I didn't know the whole thing.
You got
of it.
Yakov Trenin, so the Yak.
Right.
Colton Sissons, the Colt.
Yep.
Matthew Olivier, the Biloxi Bull. The Herd line.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Hammer, you rule. That line is absolutely a joy to watch. And like Sissons, Sissons is just making plays all over the place. Again last night, he is hitting people. And then those two young guys are – and when you see the skill too, and actually Olivier almost had a goal last night. I mean, I think it was the right. At first, I didn't think it was the right call, but it was the right call. But that's you are going with that. It's interesting,
I think at forward, the biggest question is Granlund here or is he not? Like is Granlund?
It makes
here?
it easier if he isn't. Now it doesn't necessarily make it better, but it makes it easier.
Right. Like if he's not here. And I think it's pretty clear what you do at that point at forward. If he is here, you've got some decisions to make if you're John Hines.
Well, Haula too,
yeah. Now, Haula, to a lesser degree, like the value, I don't think it's going to be great. But, yeah, I mean, he's certainly an option that you could trade if you wanted to.
Yeah, because now you have, obviously, Haula and Cousins coming alive. And, you've got – so, I don't know. There's going to be –
Cunning's played really well. I mean, how do you take him out? Right now.
Right. So go to defense. So you get Ellis and Fabro back.
Yep.
What are you doing? You have all those options. Obviously, something like a Ferentz comes in a pinch. Good for him. And now, but like Davies has been a nice player.
If everyone on defense is healthy, and I mean everyone, I'm probably going Josi, Ellis, Ekholm, Fabro, and then I would go probably at this point, the way they played, I'd probably go Ben Harpur and Carrier. Like, I don't think that Borowiecki is going to be in this lineup when he's healthy right now.
Benning either, huh?
Well, I forgot about him. Crap.
Yeah, I mean it's probably is it Benning and Carrier? Does that make sense?
I mean, you've got two guys that play on the right side there, but maybe I don't know. They got some tough decisions. What do you think?
I kind of feel like Borowiecki would still draw into the lineup over Harpur.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't.
I'm kind of hot and cold on Harpur.
I am too, but I'm just saying, like I don't think he would. I think right now Harpur would be in there. Maybe not. I
think a bigger decision is Carrier, or I don't think they're taking out Fabro, but Carrier has played better than Fabro this season.
I would agree. I'd agree, but I also agree I don't think they're taking Fabro out. But what is the fan base going to do if all these guys come back and are healthy and available, and this looks a whole lot more like the veteran-laden lineup that we saw to begin the season, and these young guys just aren't finding time? Like Carrier's not in consistently, or Jeremy Davies, which if everybody's back healthy, Jeremy Davies is not going to be in on defense. Like, how are fans going to feel about that based on what we've seen and the big point of how they've gotten here? I mean, I'm looking at this lineup last night at forward, and the 11 guys they put on the ice, I think, are all playing really well right now, and that's not even with Tolvanen in there. Like, they've got some tough decisions coming up.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that. Obviously, Tolvanen didn't play last night.
He's going to be in there.
They go 11 forwards. They end up with half the game with 10 forwards. Yeah, Tolvanen will probably play. I don't know.
Doesn't Rocco come out?
Probably.
I mean, probably, but good Lord.
Scored 4 goals 2 weeks ago.
He's been on fire. I don't know. I mean, first off, it's a great problem to have if you're John Hines, but this does become tricky, like trying to manage what you said, and that is I do think there has been a chemistry level with this group that they've developed, and everybody that played last night, and it's been playing for the last few weeks, they know the way they've got to play. And what you can't have is, and I'm not saying that they would do this intentionally, but you can't have, Ellis coming back in and Duchesne coming back in and Forsberg coming back in, all these different pieces that you feel good about individually, but does that mess up the way that you're playing right now? That's a tough balance as a head coach.
Right. And if it's great chemistry across the board, you can just mix and match and just go just purely a meritocracy, whoever's playing. But you're also here in a time pinch. I mean, this is it, like you got to be at your best. And now the schedule gets tougher, right? So I almost think John Hines might be like, you know what? If you trade a couple guys away, then make it easier on me. That'd be okay. I mean, I'm sure he's not begging Poile to move Granlund because Granlund's played so well.
Yeah.
But that would simplify some things.
One thing that does give me a little bit of confidence in some of the veterans coming back into the lineup is that we have seen some veterans come back into the lineup after injury and play with a lot more desperation and efficiency.
They have.
Cunning's the guy that he talked about, right?
Johansson, Ekholm.
Right.
Saros.
They have, but they've also had young guys there pushing them.
Yeah.
If the young guys aren't there pushing them, does that change that? I don't know.
Well, I think the reaction to the fan base is going to be based on whether they're winning or not.
Sure.
If they come back in and then they go on a slide, I think they will blame the veterans, despite the schedule getting tougher.
I'm just here to tell you, if Duchesne, Ellis, and Forsberg and all those guys come back in the first game and they lose, the fan base is going to be like, get them out. Bring me Rem Pitlick right now.
That will be causation.
Yes.
Yep. Whether it is or not, but that's how it is. And the thing is, if it's against Tampa Bay, you could play well and lose, but it doesn't matter.
Speaking of Tampa Bay, Predators taking on the Lightning coming up this weekend. How much of a barometer could this game in particular be before the trade deadline? We'll discuss that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. We'll have Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet and the 31 Thoughts podcast coming up to begin the 7 o'clock hour. Looking forward to getting his perspective on the Predators and the NHL trade deadline coming up on Monday. So that'll begin the 7 o'clock hour here on the show. Right now, taking your thoughts on the Predators on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Tyler from Berry Hill text in. I think it's definitely a big question, but one thing that bodes well for the Preds is that they have lost so many people during this stretch, and they've continued to play well. If they can sustain it when losing people, hopefully they can sustain it when adding people back as well. And that goes back to the big question we asked, Joe, like if that happens and they can sustain it and they come back and they get some more talent back in but continue to play the same way, how dangerous can this team be heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a big if, but it's certainly, I think, what they're planning on doing. You know, we're almost an hour in, and we still haven't mentioned UC Saros, by the way, which is still
pretty well last night.
Yeah, he's kind of an important part of what's going on too. Yeah. He's sort of matters a lot here.
Yes.
He's not everything. Not everything.
Yes.
Well, John Hines said rename the sport goalie.
Yeah, I know he did.
They could have renamed the sport goal scorer last night.
Yeah.
7 goals.
RV. Rename it RV last night. But yeah. Look, that's the big question. Beyond that, you do start with the goaltender and Saros. Now, what is he's tied for the lead? Did I just say league? Tied for the lead in save percentage, I believe.
I'd have to look at it based on the games that are played. I mean, you've got guys that have played one game that have 1,000 that the NHL website's got listed in there, so I'd have to sift through like the game requirements. But yeah, probably so. I think he's at 930 right now.
Yeah, I think among qualifying goalies, he's at 930 on the year, and obviously he's like 962 in his last 10.
It's pretty good.
So you start there, and if that just continues, you feel good about everything. But yeah, whoever comes back in, to me, like, you've got to know. Whoever you are, you've got to know. Like the standard has been raised. I mean, I thought the quote we played earlier from John Hines from our interview yesterday, that was a pretty strong statement on what they weren't doing and what they are doing now and what the expectation is. I mean, I think it's got to be clear. So can the chemistry stay good even if the lineup changes drastically as it may do in the next week or two?
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Bob from Antioch. Bob, thanks for calling in to Robby and Rexrode.
Good morning, guys. At this point, I'd like to have your opinion about who you think got the better of the Fiala for Granlund trade. And my other question also involves Granlund. Do you think that they'll try to move him, or do you think that they're looking at him as part of their long-range plans?
Hey, thanks for the call, Bob. We appreciate it. I mean, that is an interesting question. Like, can you find room to re-sign Mikael Granlund? Like, it's obvious he's a different player here under John Hines than he was under Peter Laviolette. Now, it's not like it came out of nowhere. Like, he was really good in Minnesota, and honestly, when they made the Granlund for Fiala trade, it was one of those trades where I thought again, man, David Poile's done it again. He's coming here, and Granlund's going to come in here, and he's going to be awesome for the Predators. And the early returns were not very good. I think Granlund has always played hard, but the returns, results-wise, were not good. Now, that has changed, and that has shifted. I mean, the goal he scored last night was beautiful. So as far as who's won the trade, I don't know. I mean, Kevin Fiala did just have a hat trick the other day. He's got 14 goals on the season, 25 points. He's playing pretty well.
Minnesota's going to win that trade.
Minnesota's going to win the trade because in all likelihood –
he's going to be there.
Granlund probably is not going to be here, if I had to guess.
But it's a good question by Bob because we haven't really framed it that way. You know, it's like a foregone conclusion that whatever happens, keep or sell, that he's not going to be here next year. Maybe he really wants to be here next year.
Maybe so. The question is, do you have enough room?
Can they make it happen?
Because
can they make it work?
You know, you've got some decisions to make coming up too. It's not just what the cap looks like now. What's the cap going to look like when Philip Forsberg signed? Or if you decide to keep Matthias Ekholm, what's the cap going to look like then? Like,
it's not going to look any different, is it?
Forsberg's going to be making more money than he's making right now.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about what's the cap look like.
Oh no.
Cap's not moving.
I just mean your
own cap situation.
Space. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, that, you've got to factor that into it as well.
But you also factor in, are one of these $8 million centers going to be elsewhere? I mean, there's other things that can open up space that may well do it.
And maybe that's the route you try to go. Now, I still think it's going to be more difficult than people would like to believe to get one of these $8 million contracts out of here. So keep that in mind heading into the offseason as well. But look, it's a credit to Granlund that we're having this discussion because, right when the coaching change happened last year, I just assumed Granlund was gone. And even in free agency, the Predators basically were like, all right, we're moving on. Craig Smith's going to be out of here. Granlund's going to be out of here. And then the way free agency fell.
Mikhail, you're still there.
Yeah.
Well,
comes back.
What do you say?
So that's probably not going to happen again this offseason. It's going to be, I think, closer to a normal offseason where teams are more comfortable signing longer-term deals. So you got to keep that in mind as well. But it is interesting. Now you got a huge game against Tampa.
It's a good discussion. It's a good question. Short of absolute certainty or close to it, that he would want to be back here. And then that whatever your vision of the future is, you believe you can pull it off. This is, again, why I think by Monday evening he should be somewhere else.
Let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Dave from Mount Juliet, who wants to weigh in. Dave, thanks for calling into Robby and Rexrode.
Hey, guys. Good morning. So I want to share something with you fellas that I've never said out loud before about the Predators, and just to see what you think. Take your spin on it.
All right.
First of all, I am not what you would call a hardcore hockey fan. I am a new hockey fan that was baptized by the Predators' incredible run several years back when we were started off the 8 seed, swept Chicago. You guys remember that?
Sure.
So yeah. So it seemed to me, and just to me, once all these guys got the big contracts, I just saw our consistent performance go down over the next several years. And it reminds me of that again because a lot of these big-name guys are hurt on the bench, and look who we have playing. Guys I haven't even heard of, and they're playing dang well. And, I'm just wondering if there's any merit to my feelings about, once our players got paid, they just became, I don't want to say it, but maybe a little soft. Just they didn't have that killer instinct anymore because, they were making big-time money.
Hey, thanks for the call, Dave. We appreciate it. I mean, look, I've always been kind of resistant to that theory, but, I mean, he is right about the timetable of this. I mean, you start to pay some of these guys, and the trajectory goes downward. Now, is that the root cause of it all? I don't know. People talk about that with Ryan Johansson. He got paid, and then that was it. Well, he got paid after the run in 2017. He's still pretty darn good in 2018. He was still really good in 2019 as well. So it's not like there was just this immediate, well, I've been paid and I'm done. I don't care anymore. I'm not trying anymore. So I've always been kind of hesitant to that, but I can't deny that I haven't thought about that a little bit lately. When you bring some of these younger guys in who have displayed that hunger, and you hear the comments from John Hines about, the work ethic and the buy-in and the hunger, all that, why? And we asked the question yesterday, why is it that it takes the young guys coming in and doing this to help kind of right the ship for the veterans? I do think that's becoming more and more of a fair question.
No, I think there's merit to it collectively. I can't, like Ellis, for example, people have pointed that. I think that's bunk. I don't think Ellis got paid and all of a sudden he stopped trying. I can't point to any individual and say, oh, clearly you got paid, you stopped trying.
Right.
But I think collectively, it's not just getting paid either. To me, it's getting a little older. It is. I mean, I'll tell you, having kids there's real life stuff that happens, and a lot of these guys have young families now. I mean, it's when you're young and you're trying to prove yourself, you're trying to stick in a league, you're trying to do every little gritty, grimy thing you can to get noticed and to stick in a lineup. That desperation can't be faked by people who are established. So I think there's some merit to it. And I think that right now, it's if you want to be part of this and keep winning, here it is. These guys are showing you. So we'll see if we'll see if it can continue here. But I do think there's something to it.
We'll continue the discussion on the Nashville Predators when we come back. Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet will join us. We'll look ahead to the NHL trade deadline as well. That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, talking all things Nashville Predators and looking ahead to the NHL trade deadline as well. And help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in the great Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet, also with the 31 Thoughts podcast as well. Jeff, what's going on, my man? How we doing?
Anything changed since last time we spoke, gentlemen, or is everything still the same? Are we on the same page here?
It's
How's it going, guys?
We're doing well, Jeff. Hope you are as well. And to that point, I mean, the last time we had you on, it was just a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the deadline and Matthias Ekholm and the Predators probably potentially being the most active team at the deadline. And since then, they've won 11 out of 13 games. They're got a 4-point lead on the Blackhawks right now for 4th place in the Central Division. Just from your vantage point, what have you thought of this turnaround that the Nashville Predators have made as of late?
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you get a save. Ellie Tolvanen is finally emerging. I mean, these are all things that you guys know. These are all things that you guys have documented on your program here. You know, a couple of things. One, Nashville's played much better. I like that the chatter around John Hines has quieted down, because I've always maintained, regardless of Nashville's record, that that's a really good NHL coach. A couple of other things. Chicago has come back down to earth very much, as has the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that team has, you know, some of the most drama of any team in the NHL. And as much as we looked at the Dallas Stars and said, you know, that might be the team here to watch, you know, trying to jump up and grab that fourth spot in the Central, they just have no pop in their offense. The Dallas Stars just flat out can't score. So a number of things have happened here all at the same time. And I think the full props need to be given to Nashville here for taking advantage of it. I mean, you can only win the games you're presented with, and that's what Nashville has done. Now, complicating all of this is April 12th, and what do you do? And I kind of look at it, and I say, well, David Poile doesn't have to do anything. I mean, he's got 2 expiring contracts in Granlund and Holla. After that, I mean, you can really kick a lot of decisions down the road right now. And I think that one thing that we really need to keep in mind here, and every team is going through this. Right now, every team is trying to sell for next season. Regardless of what they're doing right now, the MO is get things back to normal for next season. Sell tickets, sell sponsorships, sell season ticket packages for next season. And as history has shown, it is a lot easier to do that when your team makes the playoffs as opposed to is going through a rebuild. And some may say that, you know, penny wise and pound foolish, and you need a long-term plan. Right now, there's no long-term plan for any team. You know, given what everyone's gone through with COVID and the losses and how they've mounted up and how much money has been lost here, every owner is looking for every nickel under every cushion wherever they can find it. So if I'm David Poile, my marching orders are make sure we're in a playoff spot. Even if, you know, opening round, you know, you may get roasted by Carolina, Tampa, Florida, take your pick. Right now, the MO has to be just get in, keep that fourth spot.
So you're telling us Poile's buying Monday then? Is that when is that the?
I don't think that they're buying. I think that right now they're in a hold, and there's not a lot of pressure for David Poile to do anything. And it wouldn't be the worst thing either if you know Granlund just goes through the season and then leaves for other pastures at the end of it. Ditto for Eric Holla. You still have your team very much intact. I think there's always three types of teams on trade deadline day. There's buyers or sellers, and then there's teams that just don't do anything and are satisfied with their lineup, and they have enough to get done what they need. I don't think that they're a buyer. I don't necessarily think they're a seller either. I think that Monday comes and goes, probably with Nashville being a quiet team that we don't hear a lot of noise around, unless it's a small deal with Granlund or a small deal with Eric Holla. I don't necessarily see Nashville as making the big splash. Now, this can all change if someone calls David Poile and knocks his socks off for a deal for Matthias Ekholm and Philip Forsberg or Ryan Ellis or whomever. But I don't know that I see that happening in a flat cap universe right now.
Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Jeff, to that point, around the league, like we've not seen much at the deadline or leading up to the deadline at this point. And obviously, like Taylor Hall still on the table, there are some names that will be out there. Yeah. How active do you expect this deadline to be as we approach Monday?
It's a great question. Well, right now what we're seeing is it's hard to make deals without teams retaining money. Both the deals that the two deals that we saw where there was money retained, the Buffalo-Montreal deal with Eric Staal, the Palmieri-Zajac deal between New Jersey and the New York Islanders, the Florida-Chicago deal, it did not have money involved, but or retaining salary involved. But I think that might be an outlier in all of this. There's a lot of teams that don't want to take on money. Even if you have cap space right now, it's save. there are some teams that have done some interesting things to open up cap space, and the Florida Panthers now have $4 million in it after making that deal with the Chicago Blackhawks. But right now, it's more difficult than ever than any other trade deadline. Nobody wants anyone really with term because we don't know what next season and the season after is going to look like. And right now, a lot of these deals have to be money in, money out, and the cash has to wash. That is a whole new wrinkle, or I shouldn't say new. That is another wrinkle for general managers that have to juggle here as they try to get things done. So it's harder than ever right now in the NHL to make a deal because of the flat cap and how everyone wants to be conservative with the nickels and dimes.
Jeff, you mentioned the noise quieting around John Hynes. And look, obviously a team loses, people are going to look at the coach, they're going to look at the GM. I mean, it's obvious that these things happen, but what do you like? What have you liked about John Hynes as a coach? And how much credit do you think he deserves right now for this turnaround?
I'll tell you what, in the off season, here's a sort of indicator, and he's always had a reputation for being a coach that has always had a strong forecheck, and he's a coach that can get a lot out of high-end players. When Taylor Hall was a free agent in the off season, the Colorado Avalanche were interested, but also Nashville, and specifically, Taylor Hall. I'm of the firm belief, guys, that Taylor Hall's first choice was Nashville, and that was because he wanted to be reunited with John Hynes. That's where he enjoyed the most success, his Hart Trophy season, etc. That was his decision. For whatever reason, that deal could not come together, and he ended up taking the 1-year deal with the Buffalo Sabres. This is a coach that likes to forecheck aggressively. This is a new school thinker. This is a coach that wants to have a direct line to his analytics department. I mean, he's a very forward thinker in that regard. So players like him. He's a progressive coach. He's a smart guy. He's well-liked. I've got all day for John Hynes as a head coach.
Jeff, last thing for you here. As you look around the league right now, with the different setup this year, with the different divisions, sometimes it could be hard to gauge maybe the entire league when you're not seeing teams play against everybody. Yeah. But if you had to identify the top couple of Stanley Cup favorites right now, who would you go with?
Well, you got to go with Colorado right now. And, I was talking to someone in Vegas the other day, and I said, do you guys think you have enough to beat the Colorado Avalanche? And this person said, if you get us at a candid moment, we'll tell you no. Colorado is the juggernaut. They have emerged as we thought they would. I still think that Tampa, they're getting Nikita Kucherov back for the playoffs. I think those are the two that you would look at. But I also think that you look at what the Islanders have done and the structure that they have. Like, it may not be the most exciting brand of hockey, but there's no denying that team is very much a force. When Washington is playing well, they're certainly a Stanley Cup favorite, and I think the Toronto Maple Leafs in the North. You put their winning percentage up against any of the elite teams, whether it's Colorado, whether it's the Islanders, whether it's the Capitals or whomever. They're right there in that mix. So there's a handful that have emerged as the elite in the NHL, and then you have your second tier. But your top dogs right now have to be considered the Colorado Avalanche. And don't be surprised if that's a busy team on Monday as well. We know Joe Sakic is at least looking for one more defenseman.
Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet, also with the 31 Thoughts podcast, has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Jeff, great stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning.
I hope the next time I'm on, we don't reveal how wrong I was about this appearance as I was the previous appearance.
Hey, we're right there with you, man.
Yeah, we're all
in the same boat. So we appreciate you joining us, man.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, gents. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You as well. The great Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll react to a little bit of what Jeff had to say there and ask the question, how active do we think this deadline is going to be? How active do we think the Nashville Predators could be coming up on Monday at the trade deadline? We'll talk about that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Make sure you're tuning in later on in the show as we reveal a key word for you to text into the game line for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Home Gate giveaway, a Dos Equis prize pack including a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. We'll have that opportunity coming up a little bit later here in the show. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5. The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning. We're going to have Call Your Shot Friday coming up at 7:45. So go ahead and get those called shots into our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Jeff Merrick with some interesting stuff from Sportsnet in the last segment here, talking about the NHL trade deadline, which is coming up on Monday, and not expecting the Predators to be overly active at the trade deadline. Said unless you get a good deal for a Haula or a Granlund, probably standing pat if you're the Predators, and certainly doesn't expect the big deal of Ekholm or a Forsberg to a lesser extent that we've talked about in the past to happen coming up on deadline day. So I ask you both this question. We've talked about what we think should happen. It's prediction time. We're not that far away from the NHL trade deadline. What do you think does happen on Monday? On April 12th, when it comes and goes, when the deadline passes, what do you think the Nashville Predators have done or not done to that point?
See, you're infringing on Call Your Shot Friday.
Okay. Well, you don't have to
What
answer.
if I don't want to say?
Well, you don't have to.
What if I want to plead the fifth? What if this? What if Poile trades Ekholm to Colorado?
You
So
think
you
that
can be
might
tormented by him for the next few years once they're back in their division?
Just have Girard and Ekholm out there?
He only has 1 year left on his contract,
Sure,
Joe.
it'd just be one more year.
Right. That's right. There's my prediction. There's my called shot.
That's your called shot.
No.
Okay.
No.
Ryan Porth, do you want to save this for Call Your Shot Friday too? Or
No,
would you like to
I
answer
didn't
the
have
question?
any trade deadline stuff in my Call Your
Good.
Shot Friday.
You can answer the question.
Does this
Okay.
mean that you think nothing's happening?
Perhaps.
Okay.
I'm kind of getting that feeling. The Islanders Devils trade was very interesting because I feel like that kind of reset the market compared to where I thought it was after the Eric Stahl trade from Buffalo to Montreal.
Yeah.
Where Palmieri and Zajac go to the Islanders for a first and a fourth and some other pieces within that trade. And Granlund.
I know where you're going with that, but yeah.
Okay. So Granlund probably isn't as coveted of a player as Palmieri. But if Palmieri is essentially yielding a first and Zajac is a fourth, then couldn't you say that Granlund would be a second and Haula would be a fourth? I mean, if Zajac can get a fourth, Haula can get a fourth.
You would think.
Zajac hasn't been good in 5 years.
Right.
So, I mean, if you put the two of them in a trade together almost, in the same exact fashion, and you're offered a second and a fourth, or you get a desperate team giving you a second and a third, we see that all the time. And the Preds have been one of the teams over the years that have been desperate come deadline time, where they give up a first-round pick for Ryan Hartman or a first-round pick for Paul Gostad or a first-round pick for Brendan Witt. Like, you could easily have another GM call up David Poile and offer you something that you just cannot refuse for someone like Granlund and Haula on Monday. But I'm kind of getting, just listening to Poile talk the last couple weeks on Darren Donick and Chase, I'm kind of getting the feeling that nothing's really going to happen on Monday.
Yeah, but again, I understand what he's been saying. He's been downplaying it. First of all, I wouldn't really expect anything different. But I agree, the tone. I mean, look, things are going well, right? But how could you know, though? Because Monday, a lot of times that day is when things change. And someone who was here is like, okay, let's go to here. Now what do you think? I mean, that's certainly possible.
Well, also, with David Poile's track record over the years, he's always been one that has looked at his team glass half full, optimistic, and maybe a little too much at times. You think back to the Ryan Suter situation where a lot of people thought he was going to leave, and he held on to Suter, and he walked for nothing. And Poile has kind of referenced it of not wanting to let players walk for nothing, but, I mean, if it's me and someone's offering me a second-round pick for Granlund, you have been giving up first- and second-round picks in the last 10 years going for it. I think it's time, even though this team is winning right now, to get one of those assets back. Because essentially, if you do nothing, you are kind of going for it for a playoff run.
Sure.
And you are giving up the opportunity to get an asset, even though you're not giving up anything.
What if it's just a third? To me, if it's a second, it's a no-brainer. What if it's a third? Well, just forget the combo trade. Just Granlund straight up, third-round pick. What'd Stahl get, a
tough.
third and a fifth?
Third and fifth.
Yeah, that's tough. I'd probably still do it, but I don't know, man. Third rounders, I mean, you can hit on some third rounders for sure. There have also been a lot of third rounders that you just totally whiff on too. I mean, it's people got to realize, like, the NHL draft is, I think it's a lot more of a crapshoot than the NFL draft is. Like, the NFL draft, you've got tape. These guys have grown up a little bit. They're 21 for the most part, 20, 21, 22 years old. You're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds.
A lot of third-round picks in the NFL draft are not just good players. They're ready to be good players
right
quickly.
That's not normally the case in the NHL.
And think about this particular draft in July, where a lot of GMs are upset that the draft is happening in July because they haven't been able to scout like normal. So does that factor in to whether or not Poile wants to make a trade of not only would it only be a third-round pick in your scenario, Joe, but a third-round pick in a draft that you may not have as good of a feel for all these prospects.
Well, how about a second-rounder in 22?
But see, GMs, I don't think are going to be willing to give up draft picks in 22.
I don't think so either.
That's what the sellers want. That's not what the buyers want to give up.
I agree. And also, like, we haven't really talked about this part of it, but Jeff Merrick brought up in the last segment, like, the financial realities of where the league is right now and where teams are. I mean, you're trying to get as much revenue as possible. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, this is no groundbreaking information here, but COVID has hurt. I mean, it's hurt the sports world. It's hurt every single industry out there for the most part. So they're trying to get as much money as they can and trying to generate as much revenue as they can. Does a playoff run help kind of facilitate that towards a season ticket drives for next year, or trying to get things as back to normal as quickly as possible as you can? How much does that factor in for the Predators? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also would say, like, they move Granlund, and I don't all of a sudden say, forget them now. Here come the Stars.
Well, I would agree, and I would also say, like, if you're a Predators fan, what excites you more? Is it stockpiling younger assets and having them ready to play next year, potentially, or is it making a run to the playoffs, potentially getting beat in the first round? And why do you have to have – I mean, you can have both. We've talked about that.
Like right now, with or without Granlund, I'm going to predict that the Preds get to the playoffs and lose in the first round.
Yeah.
My prediction doesn't change if he's gone.
Now, what if you make almost like a hockey trade where, okay, you're trading Granlund, but you're not just getting some sort of, draft pick compensation in return. The Boston Bruins seem to be almost done with, like, Jake DeBrusk.
Yeah.
Jake DeBrusk is a talented player that could probably use a change of scenery, who keeps sliding down the depth chart because Boston is so stinking good. Like, what if Boston is wanting to add a forward and you get DeBrusk back in return? Now, that helps Boston because they're not adding a whole lot of salary. It's not just a complete 100% add with money. So there's some money in, money out for the Bruins. And I've heard a lot of people say that maybe this is a postseason for some teams where you don't want to invest a lot of money when you're not going to have full arenas.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
but I think, no, for sure. But like you said, and like Jeff said, what does it help your outlook a lot going into next year if you're a playoff team, and it doesn't like the trajectory has been like this for the Preds for the past few years,
right?
And now, I mean, this is one of the best and most fun stretches.
Long time
of the last few years.
Well,
right now,
and I made that comment mostly for Boston than
sure.
I did for Nashville.
Oh, yeah, right.
But this has also been the most fun this Preds team has been in like 3 years.
Yeah,
honestly.
Oh, it is, and it's a lot of fun right now. And look, I think there's value in keeping that going. Like, I would still pick them to lose in the first round, regardless of what they do at the trade deadline coming up this week. But maybe they don't. I mean, look, maybe they get hot and they go on a run here and they play well in the playoffs. I mean, you have to leave that possibility on the table. To your point, though, Joe, like I'm not sure, like if Granlund is here, does that help you? Sure. But if he's gone, does that just totally devastate your chances? Like as we've seen, the team has dealt with some losses. They've done pretty well at dealing with some losses of players here. Does that totally derail your chances if Granlund's not here? I don't think so.
You plug a healthy, rested, off-injury Matt Duchene into the exact same spot and say, here it is. Go get it. I mean, like to me, if you get something Monday and obviously I don't think that you are going to disrupt everything too much. It's like you have your cake and eat it too, which is a dumb expression because who the heck wants cake without eating it? But still, you get what I'm saying.
You are correct.
It's like cake so you can like rub your butt on it. I mean, like, if you have cake, you want to eat the cake.
That's right.
Sorry that I used that terrible cliche. I retract it.
102.5 The Game is kicking off every weekend with free beer.
Free beer.
And who doesn't love free beer? Make sure you're tuning in all day today for your chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. Ryan Porth with another outstanding trivia question coming your way today on this show at 9:45.
And it's related to the Masters.
It is related to the Masters. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on the Nashville Predators. Got a lot of your thoughts to get to on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. When the Preds have a weekday game this season, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. If you guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game that night, you will win a prize pack. The next chance to participate will be Tuesday morning at 8:45. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Talking Nashville Predators, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Kyle texted in and says, I believe we're finally playing like the team we thought we would be at the beginning of the season when we added some of these guys in free agency. I don't think this is just a flash in the pan. We might just be a good team, and it's finally starting to click within the locker room. So, Joe, what do you think of that? Kyle throwing out there that they're playing more like the team that everybody thought they could look like in the preseason heading into this season, and that maybe this is not just a hot streak. Maybe they've figured something out and that this is sustainable moving forward here.
I could buy that. Again, remember, not to throw too much cold water on everything, but the 9 wins have come against Detroit, Chicago, Dallas in this. Do I have a 9 of the – no, I'm sorry. 9 of the 11 wins have come against those teams. I think there's some things that are sustainable. I think the way they're playing is how they talked about playing going into the year, and then they didn't do it. You know, they didn't find the right formula to do it. The one thing that I'll continue to ask, and I guess until it stops, is UC Saros sustainable at this level? Because, I mean, if he goes through another couple weeks of this, at what point does he start getting Vezina mentions?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, I still think, this is probably Andre Vasilevsky's trophy to lose at this point, would be my guess. I mean, I think he's the favorite. But
Fleury's in the mix.
But I would still give the edge to Vasilevsky. But I don't know. You know, if Saros closes out the season like this, how many times have we seen in a competition before when it comes to the Vezina, like the goaltender closing really, really strong, and they generate a lot of momentum? And it probably shouldn't be this way, but I mean, people are influenced when you start voting on. I think the GMs vote on
it's money
the
time.
Vezina. So, look, if he keeps playing like this, he's going to put himself in the mix.
By the way, on FanDuel, you still cannot bet on UC Saros. But, hey, you can vote on Cam Talbot to win the Vezina.
Let him keep playing like this for another week. You'll be able to vote on UC Saros.
You can't do write-ins, huh?
Yeah, no write-ins.
Set your own odds.
Port keeps saying vote.
I do keep saying vote, and you still can't vote/bet on Yossi to win the Norris, and you still can't vote/bet on Tolvanen to win the Calder.
Yeah. No respect.
Disrespect.
No respect. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate texted in, I'm not saying my thoughts on Taylor Hall are changed based on that interview with Merrick, but should the Preds at least listen to this and think about getting Hall at some point? I haven't watched him, but maybe he's just been unhappy since he's been wanting to reunite with Hines. I know it's a big risk, but just listening and thinking can't hurt anything. So we did hear that from Jeff Merrick, that he believes that Nashville was probably Taylor Hall's number one preference, just to reunite with John Hines and the way that John Hines has coached Taylor Hall, the way Taylor Hall played, winning a league MVP under John Hines, and the deal just didn't work. If you're the Predators, and maybe not even necessarily right now at this deadline, do you give any consideration to Taylor Hall in the future, bringing him in?
Well, you know who I want to know about on that question? If John Hines is all in on it, great.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if I'm the
I have a feeling he would be.
Yeah.
The connection was pretty good there in New Jersey.
It
with
was.
John Hines and
It
Taylor
was,
Hall.
but things have changed.
They have.
You know?
But, look, Taylor Hall was good last year for Arizona, and he was pretty good against the Predators in that playoff series. He was good.
He's overrated.
I do think he's overrated. And
he had a magical year under Hines.
And I will say, it is difficult to judge him in Buffalo because, my goodness.
Right.
It's Buffalo. He's got 19 points in 37 games. He scored 2 goals.
Buffalo's like Pigpen and Peanuts.
Yeah, it's
like
not,
the smudge gets on everyone.
You
have to take a shower immediately.
Exactly. So it's hard to judge from there. He is 29 years old, and you do have to wonder, like, at a certain point, like, if everywhere you are is not good, like the team's not good, like, do you read into that at all if you're a team? Like, they were awful in Edmonton with him there. They were awful in New Jersey for the most part with him there, even though he played really well.
Beat the Preds in a playoff series.
He did.
Got to the playoffs with New Jersey.
Yeah.
Won in that year.
They've been very good.
I don't know.
I think in the real postseason, Taylor Hall has won one playoff game.
Okay, but all right, but that was
one
the
game with the
postseason.
Devils, and then they got just bombarded by Colorado last
They
year.
didn't get swept though, did they?
I thought they did.
I think they won once.
Bottom line,
2 playoff games.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You can say that.
Give him credit.
Sorry for selling them short.
It was a playoff series. It was just as much a playoff series as anything that came after it.
It wasn't.
Yeah, sure it was. I mean, it was.
It wasn't.
It was the same
in a normal year,
conditions.
it wouldn't be a playoff series, though.
Right, but it was the same conditions.
That's fine, but it wasn't a playoff series.
But it was the pressure of a playoff series.
Okay.
Right?
But it's not a playoff series.
Officially in the NHL book.
Right, but
Yes.
okay, but you guys are trying to make this judgment of does he make teams worse in money time? That was as much money time as anything.
But
The whole Preds trajectory was
But
based
if
on
it
them
was-
losing that series.
But if it was a real season, he wouldn't have been in the playoffs. It's not a real playoff series.
I understand that, but they played a playoff series.
Okay.
But he goes to Arizona.
And they won, and they beat the Predators, so that still counts.
He went to
for something.
Arizona. They were leading the division at the time. He goes there,
And they were out of the playoffs.
They were under 500 with Hall in the lineup.
So he goes places and they just get bad.
I mean, I'm not saying it's
New
direct
Jersey
causation. I'm just saying it's happened.
Right, but New Jersey's been garbage for how long?
Long time.
Okay, so
Well, they did make a Stanley Cup final in 12.
Yes.
Okay, so you're almost a decade out. So he has an MVP season, and they actually get to the postseason. Does that count for anything?
Sure.
And they weren't good.
Yeah. I mean, he carried them to the playoffs.
So I'm not advocating the Preds get him. I'm just saying you could look at Duchesne and say, okay,
You can.
but I watched him in the playoffs for Columbus.
Pretty good.
Light it up, right? So, it's narratives. By the way, Michael Lark on Twitter says, no, they're playing well against cellar dwellers. It's still time to rebuild for the future. Now, Detroit, for sure.
Cellar dweller.
But, Chicago, Dallas was in the Cup final last year.
Yeah.
That apparently you guys don't think existed because it was in the bubble and it wasn't real. Is that
Not what I said. I said the playoff series that got added that is not a playoff series
all right.
is not a playoff series.
I get it.
I don't think it's that controversial of a take.
And Dallas only has one more win this season than Detroit.
That's
right.
true.
Let's just keep that in
But
mind.
I still consider Dallas and Chicago. Now Chicago's faded. Those are comparable teams. Those are your peers. So if you're beating your peers to get to the playoffs, that's not beating cellar dwellers, Michael.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, Robby, I'm loving everyone not picking the Preds to do anything in the playoffs. It sounds like 2017 all over again. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Bring me the noise. Come on.
You know what tomorrow night feels like.
What's
I'm
that?
not saying the exact same thing is going to happen. But do you remember that 17 spring that's the Preds started playing better starting in mid-January?
Yep.
And their last game against the Hawks at home, they got just pasted on home ice. And at that point, I think that's when Jared just said, they're not beating Chicago. Avoid Chicago. You're playing well. You're playing Tampa tomorrow night. And if they lose that game, I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, don't play Tampa. If they make the playoffs, they're not going to beat Tampa. And then who knows what happens a month from now.
See, we had a caller earlier talking about that team and the young, hungry elements of it, which was true, but you also still had Forsberg, Johansson, Subban, Yossi, Fisher,
Rene.
Neal.
They had a lot of veterans.
That's right.
The
Neal.
real deal, James Neal.
Yeah.
Craig Smith. I mean, it wasn't just like a bunch of rookies, banding together and
they were younger, but to your point, yes.
So I'm sorry, but this Tampa Bay is not that Chicago.
No.
I know it's easy to say now because look, I thought Chicago might have won the Cup that year,
But hey,
going to the playoffs. I mean,
Right
why wouldn't you think so?
Right now, it wouldn't be Tampa Bay.
They still had their
It'd
core.
be Carolina.
That's true.
The Athletic, Joe.
Yes.
Yesterday had some odds or percentages, I should say, on the Preds in the playoffs in the first round. They said 18% against Tampa, 18% shot of winning, and 29% shot of beating Carolina.
Nothing against Florida?
You mute button.
Yeah.
All right, I had the mute button.
Well, I did that one on purpose. Nicely done.
What was your question?
Is that my first all week? I think it is.
No, you had one Monday.
It's not.
So it's my second all week.
Yes, it's pretty good. His question was, what about against
My
Florida?
question was, what about Florida? Do they have Florida?
No.
Okay.
18%.
I mean, what would have been the? I mean, maybe we can find it. Well, what was the percentage chance going to the Chicago series?
I think it was higher than that, but it wasn't much higher than that.
It was probably 20-something.
It was probably around what the Carolina number
Probably
is.
so. Yeah, probably so.
Again, like Tampa Bay still isn't whole yet.
And they're pretty good.
Yeah, but
and Stamkos just got hurt last night.
That's true. He gets hurt a lot. Who knows? Before we get done with the show, we're going to talk ourselves into the Predators sweeping the Lightning. It's time for Call Your Shot Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. We need your bold predictions in the world of sports on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. It could be the Titans. It could be the Preds. Any direction you want to take it is on the table. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
The sports weekend has arrived. You know what that means. Shoot your shot. It's time for Call Your Shot Friday with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is that time of the week, time for Call Your Shot Friday here on Robby and Rexroads. We need your bold predictions in the world of sports on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode.
Hey, there's a lot of ways you can go with it.
Let's quickly recap The Call Your Shot Friday. I can't say anything in this segment, so I'm going to turn it over to you. What did we do last week in Call Your Shot Friday? Save me.
I think most weeks a Call Your Shot is a recrap. That's about
Pretty much.
right.
Can we recrap last Friday?
There's our recrap.
Speaking is not going well for me today.
It's almost happy hour. All right, so my shots. Arizona will shock UConn tonight in the women's Final Four. Ding, ding, ding. Got that one. Now, then I also had South Carolina will beat Arizona in the Sunday's title game, so I was half right. I mean, Arizona lost in Sunday's title game. They just lost to
Stanford.
Gosh, thank you. Because
The long week.
I still feel bad for Aaliyah Boston missing that tip-in for South Carolina, and also because it would have made my called shots perfect. Houston will be within a possession in the final 2 minutes versus Baylor. That didn't go very well, did it? Robby, Gonzaga will win the national title game by double digits and never trail.
That didn't work.
The Preds beat Chicago 4-2. Roman Yossi will score.
They didn't. They won.
I've already forgotten what
Yossi didn't score in that game.
No.
Matt Beatty will hit 10 homers for the Dodgers. You got your long-term shot,
see.
your buddy. So,
Not off to a good start.
Yeah, well, it's early.
Has he hit one?
No.
Elijah had Gonzaga will cover the 14.5 versus UCLA. So even our resident basketball nerd doesn't know what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament.
That's
there
right.
You go. If Baylor doesn't shoot 35% from three, Houston will win. I don't know if Baylor did or not, but I'm just going to call that a bad shot too. He also has the Padres winning the NL.
Yeah.
And Tatis winning the MVP. So I mean, we may need to come back and shame Elijah down the road. Let's remember those
Tatis
shots.
is hurt, isn't he?
Yes.
That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, Tatis, I think, tore his labrum in his shoulder on a swing.
Subluxed. No surgery required.
That's a good word, and you said it correctly.
Yep.
All right, so there you go.
That's what it was?
That actually,
Okay.
I mean, recrap is exactly right. So
Thank you.
Here we go.
So Ryan Porth, you had the week off last week from Call Your Shot Friday. So does that mean you've got about 14 for us today?
Yes.
It's your turn. All right.
Yes. So y'all are done for the rest of the segment.
Thank you.
Not really. All right. A couple of Masters called shots. Bryson DeChambeau is going to miss the cut today.
Ooh.
He was 5 over yesterday.
Wasn't good.
He's going to miss the cut today. And Jordan Spieth is going to be in the final group on Sunday. Jordan Spieth has been red hot coming into the Masters, and yesterday he rebounded after hitting his ball off a tree trunk.
And triple bogey.
Triple bogey, and he rebounded in a big way. So I think Jordan Spieth is a man on a mission. He'll be in the final group on Sunday. And a couple of Central Division called shots.
Okay.
First of all, in the National Hockey League, the Carolina Hurricanes win the Central Division.
Okay.
Looking at their schedule, they are starting to pick up steam again. They looked really good in these last couple of games against Florida. I think they're going to pick up steam and go on a run here and win the Central. And then in Major League Baseball, my Cincinnati Reds are going to win the Central Division this season. Book it.
Have you learned nothing?
We're a bunch of bat-flipping, showboating sons of a gun.
That's right. Showbutting. You learned nothing about these Reds. We're 2 weeks in. What are you doing?
5-1 baby.
Right.
Well, see,
1 weekend.
What are we doing?
I'd respect that more if you said it earlier. You know, I mean, they're on a hot streak right now. But I want this shot before the season.
I do have money on them from last week winning the Central Division.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Any more?
That's it.
Oh, good. Wow. Kind of a light edition today of Call Your Shot Friday from Ryan Porth. Joe Rexrode, Call Your Shot Friday.
I only have 2, so I hope you've got some backup here. I don't have any golf called shots and probably never will in my entire life.
Okay.
Hater.
Yeah, I know. Are
you going to watch on
White
Sunday?
White guys in weird pants just doesn't really. What's that? Yeah, I will usually watch the last hour or so if it's good.
Okay.
I'll check in on Sunday of a major if it's good. All right, Preds will beat Tampa Bay Saturday night.
Okay.
And also part of this called shot, Ellie Tolvanen will have the winning goal. So this is me.
You're assuming he's playing.
I'm crystal ball, and I'm thinking, was it sort of like, you know what, a little ankle or something, and you're not feeling great? You know, hey, this team can beat Detroit. Gear up for this game. This is a big game. I think Ellie Tolvanen's going to be on the ice. I think he's going to score the winning goal.
I like that.
So there you go. My other called shot is something that we will find out, I would say, within the next 2-3 weeks. I'm going to call the shot that Vanderbilt's next women's basketball coach will be Carla Berube.
Okay.
She, for people who follow UConn hoops, she was a guard for Gino many years ago. She was a coach at Tufts for a lot of years, which is a lower level, but 384 and 96, an 800 winning percentage. She was Princeton's coach. Last season, they did not play in the Ivy League. She went 29 and 1. She's a rising star as a coach. 45 years old, and not someone people are talking about, but I'm going to call that shot. Carla Berube.
So wait a minute.
To Vanderbilt.
When I asked you the question earlier about the trade deadline, predicting what was going to happen, you told me to wait until call your shot Friday, and then you don't call what happens? You got to answer it right now. What do the Predators do?
That's a good point. I know. Then we started talking about it. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm afraid to call the shot. All right.
30 minutes ago, don't infringe on Call Your Shot Friday.
Nothing.
Well, I just assumed that Porth had a bunch of them,
Okay. Well, that's probably a good assumption.
All right. I think we've already maybe called some shots on this. Have we? I don't know. Whatever.
Not you.
You can. Okay, that's fine. All right. The Preds. I called a shot at Ekholm. The specific trade of Ekholm to the Flyers. Yeah, to the Flyers.
Oh,
no. Like that was actually call your shot.
That actually was. Yes.
Didn't we do this with Granlund too?
I thought we did.
The destination.
Times have changed.
Yeah, that's fine. An updated call your shot.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to say the Preds will stand pat.
I agree.
Make no trades.
Yep.
By Monday's deadline.
Do nothing. I don't think they should do that, but I think they will do that.
I don't think they should either, but that is one of my called shots. I say the trade deadline comes and goes on Monday, and the Nashville Predators have done nothing. They have stood pat. Granlund will remain a part of the team. Holla will remain a part of the team, and they'll just keep on marching towards the playoffs with the roster that they have right now. And it's funny you brought up Jordan Spieth. I got him winning the Masters. Give me Jordan Spieth winning the Masters coming up this weekend. We've seen him choke there before, so hopefully he doesn't do that again.
It ain't going to be DeChambeau.
No, it's not going to be him at all. That's for sure. Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and we'll continue to take your shots throughout the show here on Robby and Rexrode on our text line, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Ryan in Nashville says, the Preds will make a couple of small trades for some depth players. With all these injuries that have happened, Ekholm, Forsberg, Granlund, Haula, and Ellis will not go anywhere. So Ryan calling the Predators making some trades for depth. So I guess adding
buying?
Something. Yeah.
He's got them buying.
So at forward or defense.
They've got depth. They got 12 rookies have played this year.
That's true. Joey in Gallatin texts in and says, my call shot, the Predators win the first round of the playoffs. So Joey taking more of a longer-term view here, winning the first round, whether that's Carolina or Tampa Bay or Florida.
That's a shot.
That qualifies as a shot, that's for sure.
That's a second mute button in the last 10 minutes.
It is.
I don't know.
We've got him all flustered. Craig on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says the Preds take 3 out of 4 points this weekend. So you've got the Lightning and the Stars saying the Predators take 3 out of those 4 points this weekend.
That'd be good. That'd be a good weekend.
That would be a good weekend. Got a texter that says Granlund will be with the Preds next season because Hein wants him on the team. So a called shot of Mikhail Granlund hanging around and being a part of the Predators next year.
Did he actually say Hein?
Hines.
Okay.
Did I say Hein?
Yes, you did.
We've really got to get out of this segment. I mean, we really do. This has been brutal. We'll come back and talk to Turron
Can we recap it later?
ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning, streaming live on Periscope and on YouTube and on Twitch as well. Be listening this hour. We've got a queue to call for a chance for you to win a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Dallas Stars on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. So we'll have that opportunity coming up for you a little bit later this hour. Right now, talking all things Tennessee Titans, and to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter and host of Talking with TD. Turron, what's going on, my man? How we doing?
Hey, fellas, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. How would you describe the start of the season for your Mets so far?
You know, I want to have a physical conversation with Michael Conforto, man. I'll say that. You know, he's leaving a lot of runners in scoring position. I get you got to do what you got to do, but yesterday was embarrassing.
It was. I feel for you. Hopefully it gets better as they move forward here. The Mets and Rexrode's Tigers over here, it's a rough time.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Be glad you're not a Tigers fan.
That's right. So, TD,
hey, at least I still got Dom Smith, man.
That's true. That is true. TD, we talked earlier this week about Todd Downing because obviously there's a lot of attention right now between Vrabel and Shane Bowen and that side of the ball. But Todd Downing stepping into a situation where you got an elite offense that you're taking over from last year and a play caller that did a phenomenal job in Arthur Smith. Number one, how much pressure do you think is on Todd Downing as he steps into this new role? And what would you consider to be a success for Downing in his first year?
Yeah, I think there's probably – well, no, I think most of the pressure is on Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator. But I think right after that, he's right there because, as you mentioned, he's stepping in for a guy who had that boat was full speed ahead going towards his target, 30 points a game. I mean, that's doing a lot. So – I think he's going to have to, you know, I don't know that he could be able to maintain that, but I think the main thing is going to be for that offense to have some type of balance. That's going to be important. I think it's going to be, I can't put a number on it, but they need to average at least 26, 27 points per game. And they, for the most part, just can't be the reason why this team is losing games, right? So, you know, they can't be losing games 17-14 consistently and expect Todd Downing to not get a side eye from the fans, you know, from the organization, et cetera. But I do think Coach Downing is in a good position to make it happen. So we'll just have to see.
So, TD, I'm assuming you know Jim Schwartz pretty well from your time in Philly when he was there as DC. What do you think of him? What do you think of this move? How do you view this move, you know, really, especially as it relates to Shane Bowen?
Yeah, as far as Jim Schwartz, the thing that I love most about him is the fire that he has and the way that his energy and how it comes off in practice, you know. And I've seen players firsthand just absorb that. I remember Jalen Mills when he first got to the Eagles. That's one of the things that we used to talk about, man. He was like, man, Coach Schwartz is just so amped. And he was like, I feed off of that. I love it. And I think, you know, that's something – obviously, as a defensive coordinator, you can really exhibit that. I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to do that in this current role, but the whole way everything is going is just I want to see if they have too many chefs in the kitchen, you know, and I've said it before, you know, you got two type A alpha personalities. I want to see how that blends, you know, between Coach Schwartz and Coach Vrabel. So, when you just talk about what he brings to the table, though, I think he is going to have some fresh concepts, some fresh ideas. Not fresh like he's reinventing the wheel, but it's fresh to the Titans organization as far as how to get pressure with 4 guys up front. I think that's going to help. And just with him being so tenured, I think just getting that feel and instincts that he has, you know, from being coaching defenses so long, I think that could help on game day as far as when to dial up this blitz, when to go to this coverage or those type of things. And it's just another mind that is put into the mix.
I mean, knowing him, you're talking about that fire. He's well known for that. He's been a DC or a head coach for 20 years, you know, one or the other in this league. Do you think that he can take whatever exactly this role is, but it's a secondary role, right? I mean, more of a consulting kind of role. Do you think that that will that he'll be okay with that, I guess, or is it one of those things where you wonder if once you get into a season, into a team, he may want more say?
I think he'll be okay with that, because one of the things I do appreciate about him is just how anytime you ask questions about personnel or you ask questions about, overall team picture, when we did that in Philly, he always would say, well, I'm the DC. Doug Peterson is the head coach. So, you got to go to him. That's above my pay grade. And he would deflect that way. So at least on the surface, it didn't seem like that was an issue. Now, there were a few times where it came out that he and Doug Peterson may have had, a couple of head bumps, but that's to be expected. I mean, you can't tell me a relationship in this world that ever existed that didn't have those. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it's a matter he'll know his role. And I think really, he initially wasn't going to be involved with football, to be honest with you. So in this situation, this is allowing him to still be involved with the game at a high level, but at the same time take a step back from where he was as far as DC and head coach, as you mentioned.
ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter and host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport, on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, TD, obviously earlier this week, Vrabel holds a press conference, and Shane Bowen is a popular topic of conversation. And Vrabel didn't really go about answering anything direct about Shane Bowen in that press conference, and that generated a lot of talk, as you're aware, on social media the next day. What did you think of all that? What did you think of the way that Vrabel continues to handle these press conferences regarding Shane Bowen?
Yeah, I think it's showing us who Mike Vrabel is. We know Coach Vrabel is very blunt. He's very direct, and he's going to do what he wants to do. So if he doesn't want to talk about something, he's just not going to talk about it. And I think we need to understand that. That doesn't mean that we need to accept it, but for me, that doesn't really bother me. It's water under the bridge. Okay, you made a decision, and that's us asking questions isn't going to change Shane Bowen being a defensive coordinator. This is what this team has to work with. So for me, it's not really a huge deal. But for those that do have such an issue with it, I think the best way for Coach Vrabel to put it to bed is just, all right, the next time someone asks, just address it, say why, and move forward. I think that's really the only thing that he could do if he doesn't want to continue to be bombarded with these questions, to be honest with you. But, it's just not something that for me personally, I don't feel disrespected when he doesn't say, everything that's on his chest about Shane Bowen. It doesn't irk me the way it seems to irk others.
Yeah, well, no, and I agree. Like I've said this the other day, John Glennon asked him about it, and the answer he gave, I wasn't going to ask about DC, but it was okay, well, I'm going to follow up on this because, maybe it can be asked a certain way, and it'll get him to just say, basically, again, the question to me was just is there anything different? Is there anything different for him at all from his duties? But he didn't want to answer it. He listed the staff. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But I do think he creates more questions sometimes by taking that approach where, like you said, if you just say, here it is, this is what I like, thank you, goodbye, I think it would end some of that, and we'd ask him other questions he wouldn't answer. But anyway, so on the draft, TD, we're still in mock draft. We're right in the middle of it, but it's getting closer here. Do you have any different feel for anything with the Titans? Anything raising your eyebrows at this point that makes you wonder what they might do?
Not really. I mean, looking back at BYU, it was interesting that John Robinson was at BYU's pro day. That kind of stood out to me. I know they got Christensen, who was a pretty good offensive lineman, a really good tackle. That kind of stood out, but nothing really. I mean, it just continues to be more of the same. They were at Minnesota's pro day. Rashad Bateman obviously is a guy at 22, so I think it's just kind of pretty much the same. That the Tevin Jenkins report came out. I mean, I don't know how valid that is, but that could be not an issue, but that could be something else to take notice of as well. But nothing really to me.
Yeah, for those who don't know, that's the Oklahoma State offensive tackle, right?
Correct.
Yeah, who apparently is of high interest. But yeah, it is very much misinformation season too, as you know.
Exactly. And I just, with him, I'm not so sure that this team would draft a guy that may end up playing guard instead of tackle. Like, there's no real set, okay, what his position going to be, and I don't think they could afford to do that. So if they went for someone like Christensen, I could see that a little bit more, in line, but I really don't think that they should draft a tackle early. Deontay Smith out of East Carolina is a guy that, he showed off at the Senior Bowl. He had a really solid 2 years at ECU, and I know that he would be a pretty good player. I can't say I know, but I feel that he would be a good player, and he could play right tackle. He's athletic, so he'll fit that zone scheme, and he loves football. So you're not dealing with what happened with the last right tackle they drafted.
TD, last thing for you here. We've talked about this week the importance of the tight end position and finding a tight end somewhere in the draft. And you spoke with Brevin Jordan earlier this week on Talking with TD. What stood out to you about that conversation as you look at the Titans and balancing all the different needs that they have? How early do you think they could look for a tight end in the draft?
I think third round, late second. I think that's definitely possible. Brevin Jordan, to me, is one of the best fits. And Tommy Tremble, of course, as well. But what stood out to me in talking to him was just the energy, man. And it was funny because I felt like I was out there in the forest with a bear and just kind of like poking it to make it roar at me. You know what I mean? 'Cause I was just dropping different questions, and he just was. It was sparking him to give some answers that I really liked, and just like making him respond. And I love that, right? And I just his play as well. I think he's one of the most versatile tight ends in the draft. I know he didn't hit all the spider chart measurements and all that stuff, but end of the day, you pay the guy to play football, not be some type of Olympian. And I think that's something that has to be noted. And just the conversation just was really good, man. I love energy. I love people that bring energy. I love people that, when I talk to them, I get excited. And he was definitely one of them. It was probably between he and Nico Collins, who's coming out next week on next week's show. Those were probably my two favorite interviews where I walked away like, that was it. That was the one.
And you can check that interview out, the latest edition of Talking with TD. We'll tweet that out at 1025 The Game. TD, really appreciate you joining us today. Great stuff as always. Hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you guys. And that episode has Tutu Atwell and a on it too. So
absolutely.
Awesome conversation.
Absolutely. You can check that out. TD joins us every week here on Fridays at 8 o'clock. ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter and host of Talking with TD. When we come back, we'll react to a little bit to what Turron Davenport had to say there and also get back into the Vrabel and Shane Bowen discussion where we bring up a conversation where he actually talked about Shane Bowen. We'll talk about that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. T-Mobile and 102.5 The Game are giving you and 3 friends the chance to win a stay-and-play experience at Hermitage Golf Course. Be listening today at 4:15 on Stillman & Company for the keyword to text into the game line at 615-737-1025. More details can be found at thegamenashville.com contest page. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth, they're with you on this Friday morning, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well at 102.5 The Game. So we've spent a lot of time this week talking about Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen and just how strange at times it's been in the press conferences. We talked to TD about it in the last segment as well. And basically what happened this week was Vrabel listed the depth chart of his coaching staff when asked about Shane Bowen and what was going to change with his role as defensive coordinator. But there was a time earlier in the offseason where Mike Vrabel actually did say something about Shane Bowen. This coming from a conversation that Vrabel had with a Q&A session with some Titans fans earlier in the offseason, and he was asked about Shane Bowen and why he was hired as the defensive coordinator. Here's what Titans head coach Mike Vrabel had to say during that Q&A session.
I know you worked through a lot of things after the season determining what you were going to do with your defensive staff. You looked at a lot of options. Tell us why you settled on Shane Bowen to formally lead the defense as the defensive coordinator.
Well, I think first and foremost, I think Shane is, qualified. He's very intelligent. I think he communicates well. I think he's got a great vision for what we want to do. I think he's always looking to improve, which that'll start with me and John and our organization. We have to improve every year. That's what this business is about. I think Shane will do that. I think that the assistant coaches have to do that. And then obviously the players ultimately have to do that as well.
So that was Mike Vrabel earlier in the offseason discussing Shane Bowen and voicing some confidence in Shane Bowen and saying that, that the staff's got to improve. He's got to improve. All those different things have got to take place. But Vrabel at least actually addressing Shane Bowen and the hiring that he made at the defensive coordinator position earlier this offseason in a Q&A session. Very different from what it sounded like the other day in the press conference.
I mean, there was at least some explanation of what he likes. Just
right,
talking,
exactly.
Just talking about good Shane Bowen traits. Now, I cannot sit here and tell you that through the entire last offseason, all through camp, things like that there wasn't some quote like that in a media session. Maybe there was. But that was pointed out to me, that fan interaction, and that he talks more after that too, a little bit more specific about, we don't have time to run the whole thing, but a little bit more just earnestly answering a question.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I mean, again, I don't understand why it's hard to do that with us. So it's just because we're there, and then it's it changes the demeanor, I guess. I mean, look, that's a different question than what his duties will be, but I think what his duties will be is a pretty non-threatening question. It's just a basic question. So
maybe he just doesn't like y'all.
Well, I guess so.
That's what we've discovered. He just doesn't like y'all.
We need to put together a bracket of who Vrabel dislikes the most.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, to TD's point, it doesn't really bother me that Vrabel answers questions the way that he does. That's just what he is. It's not like this is the first head coach that we've seen operate this way. But I do think, to your point, sometimes when you do that, you open yourself up to more questions and more, I guess, unnecessary chatter than you otherwise would if you would just address the question in some way.
You prolong it.
I don't think anybody's really expecting Mike Vrabel to get in there and break down every single aspect of why he's hired Shane Bowen and made him the defensive coordinator, and just break down. This is what I like about Shane Bowen. These are the 5 traits that really sold me on Shane Bowen to be the guy. I don't think anybody's expecting that. And I don't think there's many coaches around the league, if at all, if any coaches around the league that would do that. But, again, the way he answers it, I know it doesn't bother some people, but I do feel like if he would just address it in some way, a lot of these problems and conversations that we've had all week, they just go away. You wouldn't even have to deal with it.
Yeah, now Jared has taken it to this week. Like, he thinks that stuff like this, what's the word? Escalates the move to the hot seat if things go poorly. So basically, like, if you act like this to media and again to media / fans, because we're in between them, but we're the go-between. So it's still, I mean, this is all for people who want to follow the team. It's you're still talking to fans. If you act like this means that the seat gets hotter faster when things go poorly. You buy that?
Not really at the NFL level. Like, I think there's a certain degree of that in college because I think that's more of a booster thing too that can affect you that way. So I think that happens more in college where if you're combative and you're not getting along with people in the media or with your fan base, boosters hear about that and they're, I think, more willing to pull the plug at that point. I think that's the case.
Well, they're part of it.
Anyway.
They're part of the fan base.
Exactly. So
they're stakeholders.
Yeah. So I think you see that more in college football. I think that's less of an issue at the NFL level.
Like when Butch Jones says brick by brick.
Yeah. Or when Jeremy Pruitt starts talking
Champions
about the
of
first
life.
down marker. Yes.
Yeah.
Or when Butch Jones is like, what do we want out of our media? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
I forgot about that one. That
On the
was a good
same
one.
day that he's like, Shai Tuttle fell on a helmet. Okay.
Yes.
This is the truth. Okay, Butch.
Okay.
I can assure you that the gap is closing.
Yes. Thank you, Jeremy.
So, yeah, I know this will be a shock to you. I disagree with a Stillman take. Because I agree with you. I don't think that I don't think that the actual true hot seat has anything, like Amy Adams Strunk, if they go, whatever, say they go 7-10 this year. First of all, I don't think Vrabel would lose his job. I think he would be on the hot seat the next year. But I don't think that, like, Amy Adams Strunk, as she goes through the evaluations, like, I really wish he'd be better in these pressers. I think it's very simple. It's you perform and you do whatever you want and you keep your job and you don't and then we can talk about it. And now I think that media maybe is less and it shouldn't be this way, but it is because we're all humans. Less gives less rope, less leeway to a coach who acts like this sometimes. I don't think I very strongly try not to be like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be like that, but we're all humans and we are all biased and we are not all actually purely objective. So in some ways the conversation may be harsher going back at him, but I don't think that unless you got a really weak owner, I don't think that matters.
When we come back, we'll get back into the Nashville Predators. Another big win last night, 7-1 against the Detroit Red Wings, a hat trick for Victor Arvidsson. We'll be joined by the legendary Terry Chris, Predators TV analyst. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porter with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. A gigantic win last night for the Nashville Predators, 7-1 against the Detroit Red Wings. They've won 11 out of their last 13 games. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in the legendary Predators TV analyst, Terry Crisp. Crispy, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. Doing great. Sun's up. Nice, beautiful, sunny day out there. I checked the news this morning, the sports news, and we did win 7-1. That wasn't a mirage, so I'm happy. I'm enjoying my coffee and just waiting for the next game to come around.
What did you think of that one last night, Crispy? I mean, you've got the start where Detroit takes the 1-0 lead, and then the hit later in the game that should have been a major boarding penalty that somehow got reviewed and downgraded to a minor boarding penalty, and then the Predators just take off from there offensively. What stood out to you about their performance, and a lot of pretty goals by the Predators last night?
You know what? The biggest thing that stood out to the performance to me was the team depth of the performance. Everybody. But we've been seeing that the last 6-7 games now, that they're winding into more of a complete, like the coaches have been pounding the drums on, playing the system, sticking with it. And if we get down a goal or two, let's stay with our system, keep pouring it to what we know we can do and keep doing it. And last night was probably one of the ultimate ones of that, everybody participating. And again, I guess everybody in our hockey world is the happiest for Robby, because we always say he was snake bit and couldn't make it happy. Like, he had all these scoring chances, et cetera, et cetera. Last night, like, Grimaldi just exploded, had a great game. But I look back from Saros, and we get like three defensemen there, like Davies and Ferentz and Lewington, all like sort of newbies on there, and yet they played their hearts out, played solid games for us. So taken away from that game was that I like what I saw of our team in their energy, in their work ethic, and how they just stuck to the game plan and stayed with it. That's what probably I like the best of all. And, the 2 points.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, Crispy, on Arvidsson, a guy who, you know, we were talking earlier on the show. I mean, a couple years ago, he has 34 goals in 58 games. And, you know, the production has slowed down quite a bit since then. I thought last year he looked banged up a lot of the year, and we saw, like, the speed. It looked like the speed maybe returned in the bubble. Where do you think he is in terms of his explosiveness and all the things about his game, you know, other than scoring? You know, because obviously, like you said, he has been snake-bitten some this year. But do you think that he's still as explosive and speedy and dangerous a player?
Yeah, I think he's coming back into that now. I think the injury slowed him down a little bit. And not only physically, but mentally. When you get hammered like he did a couple times, it stays with you. It lingers. I don't care who you are or what you are. It takes a little while to get that out of your mind when you come back, whether it's a leg injury, an arm injury, or a head or whatever. And then once you get through that part that says, you know what, it's not going to hurt now. Now I can get back to being me and to what my game is. And Arby's game is sheer hustle. I mean, that's how we call it, Mr. Hustle, because he has got speed to burn. He's on top of you. He makes spinoramas and turns once, comes back at you, turns around, comes back at you. He's like Grimaldi. They use their speed, and they're just a pest out there. And everybody hates playing against a pest because you just keep swatting at him. He won't go away, and you can't hit him. And that's what Arby was. But then suddenly he had that great year. And he was never, was put in the lineup as a great goal scorer. But he had that season, so I guess everybody says, well, you score the 33, 34 goals, you can keep doing it. Well, sporting world doesn't work that way. And I think now Arby's getting back to his game. But you know what? Whatever he can get, he's going to take. But he got so many great. I said to Lindsay before the game, we were going over who we were going to talk about. And I said, you know what? Arby could have had 15 or 16 or 17 goals by now this season alone if he had buried the point blank, not the maybes, not the perimeter shots, but the one where he broke through and got right on and missed the net, hit a post or whatever. So that's one of the areas right now I'm really happy to see, and for him especially.
Predators TV analyst Terry Crisp on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Crispy, you know this. I mean, when things were going poorly earlier in the season, John Hines, he was getting a lot of heat. I mean, there's a lot of noise around him, at least from the fan base on social media, and they have completely turned this thing around. How much credit do you think John Hines deserves for the turnaround that we've seen?
I'm going to give him full marks. full credit, because he kept saying he kept an even keel. He never got excited. He never blasted anybody. He sat a few players down, had a talk with them. But every time we ever had our morning meetings with Coach Hines, he's always been upfront, honest with us, telling us what he's trying to do, what he wants to do with the players. And he kept saying, they're going to buy in. The system will come through. We'll stay with it. We're working. And it's doing exactly what he wanted to do now. And they still have a few steps to do. He'd be the first to tell you that. But it's great to see that everybody now is pulling on the rope the same way. And he talked also the other day, and really a nice talk, about his coaching staff. He said, we got to know each other. He said, we were thrown together. He said, we hadn't seen it except for Dan Lambert. We're all new together. We're all having meetings, but we're not sure, exactly how we're going to approach things. And now we are. Now we've sorted out who's where and what. And that's starting to show up in the penalty kill, the power play, go on down the line. So they've had time to do things that they wanted to do. And unfortunately, at the start of the season, we got behind the 8 ball. But now they're digging their way out. They're doing their best. So it's going to be an exciting coming down this stretch run to see what happens, because we know we're in a dogfight right now for it. But right now, I like what I see of this hockey club.
If you were in his position, Crispy, knowing you have some very key, very talented veterans coming back soon, would you feel good about, hey, the standard has been set? Someone goes in the lineup, this is how they're going to play? Or would you be concerned about, like, the chemistry as it is right now with these young guys, the way they're playing, the hunger, that you would lose something when you change the lineup? How would you be approaching that and thinking about it?
You know what? I'm going to answer that very honestly. Yes, I would as a head coach. I won't think about it, but there's an unwritten code that we have that we all live by, that if you get knocked out of the lineup by injury, you don't lose your job. You don't lose your position. When you're ready, you come back into the lineup, and that's sort of an unwritten law. But again, having said that, when the team is going so well and on the other side of the coin, you don't want to flow with the chemistry. It's working. But, I mean, when Philip Forsberg is able to play, you're not keeping Philip Forsberg out of your lineup, or Ellis, or go on down the line. These guys earned the right to be in that lineup before. So, yeah, there will be changes. But you know what? The energy that we have from these young kids, it's still there. It's not going away. We can plug them back in immediately. And if the guys they're not doing it, and Coach Hines has showed, he's not afraid to change him. He's not afraid to put him out there. And last night, he made he ran out of bodies, so he goes to the 7 defenseman. And it worked perfect for him. So right now, they're pressing all the right buttons.
Crispy, what did you think of that goal last night by Yakov Trenin? I mean, we've talked a lot about that line and the physicality that they brought to the table, but a lot of skill on that play. I was impressed.
He went one-on-one with one of the best young defensemen, De Kaiser, and he just twisted him like a pretzel and then shoots it through the legs in that one. But we've seen him and Olivier and Sissons. I mean, that line, I give them the credit probably in my mind for sparking this hockey club. When we were down and at a low and things weren't going right, that was the energy line. That was the line that Coach Hines went to start every period. When things were flat, he'd put them out on the ice and turn them and go back-to-back in their rotation with that line. Towards the end of the game, if something needs settled, he'd put that line out there to keep the energy going. So the three of those guys, with Trenin, Olivier, and Sissons, they've done a good job as a unit. I like what I see of that unit.
All right, Crispy, I know you love when I ask you officiating questions. I got one for you because I cannot believe that hit was changed to a minor last night. And frankly, I also liked how Olivier reacted to that. But can you explain that to me?
You know what, I can't. And I just think, I'm thankful for mute buttons, because I still have my job because of the mute buttons. Because I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was a blatant run from behind. When you show it, he slammed his head into the boards. And that's the exact thing the league has been cracking down on, wanting to get rid of and do it. And they called a major. So in their mind, when that happened, the refs, or which ref it was, called it, must have thought it was that bad. But then I said suddenly, well, what just happened? And I asked somebody, do they go to the war room in Toronto, or the decision room, I guess I should call up in Toronto? And as far as I know, they said no. The referees on the ice decided. Well, those two referees, whoever decided, it was that flabbergasted me when they did that. And then they give Coach Hines, a bench penalty. Now, what do you expect from a coach? And if you're a referee and you have the game and you're confident in your game, you don't go over and bait a coach. You don't go. You stay away from him. You let him have his interaction. We're going to have one because I don't blame Coach Hines for getting upset on that one at all. But the referee should have been smart enough to say, we've done the damage, we've changed it around, blah, blah. Go stand somewhere else. Don't stand near the bench. And don't give me this line, well, if we don't go over to the coach, he's going to be mad and say we wouldn't listen. No, that doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it was totally ridiculous yesterday on that call. And by somehow going back and looking at it in slow motion, determining that, it's not as bad in slow motion as we thought it was in regular speed, just ridiculous. Terry Crisp has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, Preds TV analyst. The Preds back in action tomorrow, taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Crispy, great stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning.
Hey, thank you, guys. We appreciate all you do for us, and stay with us. The boys are on a roll, and hopefully we'll see you all at the Bridgestone. And in the meantime, all your families and everybody out there, please stay safe.
Absolutely. You as well,
Crispy.
Crispy. The legendary Terry Crisp, our guest, joins us every Friday at 8:30 here on the show. When we come back, we will continue the conversation on the Nashville Predators, react a little bit to what Crispy had to say there, and take your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game.
Here's a play across, and a try there by Arvidsson does not go, but on the second try it does, and now the game is tied at 1. Predators come back 2-on-1. The shot of the score! Victor Arvidsson makes it 5-1, his second of the night. De Keyser came back. Here's Arvidsson breaking in, slowing down, backhands, and he scores. Victor Arvidsson scores with a penalty shot, and it's 6-1. The Hattie for Arvy.
How rewarding is a night like this to see puck go in for you?
No, it was awesome. I almost missed the first one, and it went in, but it's awesome. Like I've been around the net a lot, and I'm trying to create chances, and had bounces not going my way, and I think today they did, and I think I played well, and I just got to keep it going. And I got some great passes from Kazji and Louis on the breakout there. So it was nice to see him going.
Then I saw her face.
What a performance last night from Victor Arvidsson and the Nashville Predators. They win 7-1 against the Detroit Red Wings. They've won 11 out of their last 13. And big night last night for the Predators, both in their own game and around the league as well. Chicago loses in regulation to the Dallas Stars. Columbus loses to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So right now, the Predators in the fourth spot in the Central Division, 45 points. They are now 4 points ahead of the Chicago Blackhawks. Dallas, with the win, now does draw within 7 points of them as well with 3 games in hand, and now 7 points ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. So not only do you get the win if you're the Predators last night, but you get a little help from the Stars against the Blackhawks. You get a little help from the Lightning against Columbus. And I guess depending on how worried you are about the Dallas Stars, you can view that as good news or bad news that the Stars were the ones to win last night against Chicago.
I do view it as Sunday night for the Stars has to be
regulation
a
win.
Big effort.
Yeah.
And look, I think the Stars actually outplayed the Preds for quite a bit of the last 2 games they played against each other. So that's I don't want to say last chance. That's one of those games. If you're them right now, you do have 3 games in hand. You're 7 points behind. You got to get a regulation win Sunday night here. I still consider them dangerous. There's still enough time for all they've been through. Dangerous enough to get in the playoffs.
And they did have news yesterday that Tyler Seguin is skating. Ben Bishop is skating. Alex Radulov skating on the taxi squad as well. So I have no idea what that means. I have no idea whether or not Tyler Seguin is eventually going to be healthy enough to come back and play. If I'm the Stars at this point, I'd be really careful about that and make sure that he's ready to go for next season. But if he is able to come back and the Stars can hang around, you talk about like a quote-unquote addition after the trade deadline, getting Tyler Seguin back would be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, that would be massive. So it's a big one. Saturday is it's here you go. Preds red hot. Let's see how you do against the most talented team in the league, the defending champ. But very next night, you got a team coming in that needs that badly, and still I think if things were to break right, could make a run here.
So I got to thinking about this last night after the game. I mean, I get it. It's the Red Wings. They won 7-1. The Red Wings are awful. And the Predators, they, to their credit, have taken care of business against the Red Wings as of late. But you've won 11 out of 13 overall. I think everybody would agree. I mean, they just look different in the way that they play in terms of a consistent effort from the start of the game to the finish of the game. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win every time from here on out, but the effort, the way they play is a lot more appealing than it was this time a month and a half ago. Are we maybe not giving the Predators enough credit for how dangerous they could be in the playoffs? Because we look at the matchups, and it would either be in the first round, Carolina, Florida, or Tampa Bay, and they would be the underdog in each one of those series to varying degrees on how wide the underdog margin would be there. But they would be the underdog in all 3 of those series. Are we maybe not giving the Predators enough credit for how dangerous they could be if they continue to play this way heading into the playoffs?
Maybe. I think early on, so look at early on in the season, what wasn't going well? Arvidsson was not producing. Okay, he just had a hat trick. Both centers, we talked a lot about Johansson and Duchesne. at least needing more production. I don't think either of them have played poorly, but you just want more production. The goaltending, the penalty kill was awful. The power play was bad. I mean, I feel like the power play is going to be dangerous the rest of the way as long as Ellie Tolvanen is in the left circle, right? And Forsberg comes back. The penalty kill, I mean, that's the thing about last night is, it ends up 7-1. But at that moment, with that horrific call, it somehow comes up with them having to, kill off a penalty. That was a big, big kill. It was a very emphatic, dominant kill, too. And it was, but that has changed.
It's almost like a screw you to the officiating.
Yeah. So, I think that's sustainable. The real question is, look, if you want to be a sunshine blower right now and look at how they're playing and say, okay, now add a bunch of talent to that. How could you not even be better and actually dangerous in the playoffs? The question is, and Crispy said it last segment, as a coach, you do look at it and say, what's the balance here? Like, do we lose something if we – and I'm not saying – look, he mentioned two guys. They're Forsberg, duh.
Yes, he's going to be playing.
Ellis,
and he's been a part of this too.
Yes, Ellis, absolutely. I think – and Duchesne too. But I think that's an interesting – like Granlund as the center of that line has been very good. So what do you do with the lineup? And then who comes out? And what does it mean? If the sunshine blowers are right, it just means that you're a more dangerous team. Everyone's buying in now. Everyone says this is how we play. I mean, last night if you're playing a defensive style and you end up with 7 goals, like it can lead to offense if you are good in the defensive zone. So. Is everyone buying in? And is Saros going to stay this hot? Then okay. Then why couldn't they be dangerous?
Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jeff texts in, this team is 4-12 against the top of the division. Is there a realistic shot of doing anything against Tampa? No. You sell. I don't get why Nashville fans and media are so overjoyed with being mediocre year after year.
Dang. Well, that's the opposite of the sunshine blower.
Yeah.
And look, that record is absolutely fair to bring up, and it's, again, fair to mention 9 of these 11 wins, Detroit, Chicago, Dallas.
Also, we've got to get just Tampa out of the minds here. Right now it's not Tampa. It's Carolina. So I get what you're saying.
Right.
But it's not just Tampa that we're worried about here. Carolina would be the matchup right now.
Yeah.
Not Tampa Bay.
Which doesn't look good either.
Right.
But I would also say, and this is where, this is going to be really interesting here in the next couple weeks, the way they're playing now, the confidence they have now, the role they're on now, the way Saros is playing now. These things were not in place when they were getting drubbed by those teams early in the season.
Sure.
How much of this success is circumstantial because of who they're playing, and so it helps them give confidence? How much is it just they have just played better, and this can be effective against anybody? I don't know. We're about to find out.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to find out tomorrow. Predators taking on Tampa Bay Lightning. So, look, I think this is going to be an interesting game to monitor from like the Preds fans' point of view because it's the game. You got this game, the game Sunday, right before the trade deadline. Like, if you come out tomorrow and they lose to Tampa Bay, a lot of Predators fans will be like, oh, hold on a minute now. As fun as this has been, you're losing to Tampa Bay, and let's say they lose by like 2 or 3 goals. Like, you just run out of gas and you get beat at the end of the game. Like, are you in danger at this point? And we've talked about maybe not overreacting to the run that they've been on if you're David Poile, and with the goaltending that they've gotten, maybe not letting that fool you at the trade deadline. Could it also work the other way where you lose to Tampa Bay and you just totally discount everything that's happened before that if you're a Predators fan or if you're David Poile?
Yeah, that's why, to me, it's just I don't think you're overly reactive to whatever happens this weekend. And on Monday, Preds beat Tampa Bay, beat Dallas. That would be, 13 of 15?
That would be
one of the best stretches of recent years, all years. I'm still if David Poile then gets a second-round pick from Kyle Granlund on Monday, great. Best of both worlds. So to me, like the idea of selling to help yourself with expiring contracts is absolutely valid no matter what happens this weekend. To your point, like I don't think that if they have a bad weekend, it's like, okay, let's put Ekholm back on the block. Who knows? Maybe Ekholm gets traded anyway Monday. And it was always going to happen. I don't know. No one seems to think that anymore. But at this point, like, you have to have a bigger picture in mind than whatever happens this weekend, don't you?
So the question now for Predators fans is, do you believe? Do you believe in this Nashville Predators hockey team, winners of 11 out of their last 13 games? And if you do, what sort of damage do you think they could do in the playoffs? Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We'll continue that discussion coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, live from the wholesaling studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 1025 The Game.
Do you want into Bridgestone Arena for Sunday night's game against Dallas? Be the third caller now to 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to watch the game live in Smashville.
I got a golden ticket. I got a golden ticket.
Your home for every moment of Predators action is right here
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. discussing the Nashville Predators. Speaking of the Predators, congratulations to Jack in Franklin, the ticket winner for the game coming up on Sunday against the Dallas Stars. Jack winning a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Stars on Sunday at Bridgestone Arena. So congratulations, Jack, for winning.
Good job, Jack.
Way to go, Jack. So taking your thoughts on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And the simple question that we're asking is this. Are you a believer in the Nashville Predators? Here we are, the weekend before the trading deadline in the NHL. They've won 11 out of their last 13 games. Are you a believer that this team has officially turned things around and that they can be a threat heading into the playoffs? Let us know on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Let's go to the text line. Austin texts in and says, I want to see the team fully healthy before I think of them as not the underdog. I am interested to see what the team looks like healthy. Now, I think at this point, even if they are healthy, there's not going to be a scenario to me in a first-round matchup where they're not going to be the underdog heading in.
Right.
Like, I don't see – I guess maybe if you get hot and Florida falls off a little bit, but then they wouldn't be in first place.
But then they wouldn't be the one.
So, yep, nope, there's not a scenario. There's not a scenario that exists where they would not be the underdog.
Yeah, they'll be the
underdog.
underdog. I don't think. They'll be the underdog, and it would, to me, not be comparable to Chicago 17 for various reasons. And I, like you said it earlier on the show, Carolina also is a very good team that has not been a good matchup for the Preds so far this year. So it's not going to be the same as 17. That was a team on the rise with a goaltender who had already demonstrated the ability to do pretty special things in the postseason. This year, this is one thing. If they get in the playoffs, it's going to be certainly a chance to find out more about UC Saros, who right now is just playing at a ridiculous level.
He is, and that's part of the game from last night. We haven't talked a whole lot about. I mean, it's Detroit. They didn't test him a ton. He did make some key saves in the game. It's another game that's come and gone, and he's given up one goal in the game. So he continues to add to that stat line. I think his save percentage during this stretch is now up to .962. So it's pretty good. You're going to win a whole lot of hockey games when your goaltending's making saves like that and having that sort of a percentage. Can he keep that up? And not necessarily to the degree of .962, but can he continue to play extremely well in net? Because to me, as good as I think the Predators have played and as excited as I think Predators fans should be about this turnaround, that's still the number one part of this. That's still the number one story, is the goaltending. Now, if that continues, you're going to give yourself a chance against Tampa Bay. You're going to give yourself a legitimate chance against Carolina. But to me, that's what it's going to take to compete in those series. It's going to take next level goaltending.
Right. So if you talk about, do you believe in this team? I mean, to me, if you believe that this is UC Saros, that UC Saros has found another level to his game and has found a way to sustain it, then could he not playing this well give them a chance to steal a series or at least a couple games, make things interesting? I would think he could. I just don't know. I mean, that's going to be, if he has another a dip here, for one thing, they may not get in anyway. But I mean, it's the number one thing in hockey. It's not the only thing, but it's the number one thing. And right now, it's as good as it could be. And you could look at it on the flip side of it, if you don't want to believe, and say this is coloring everything about this team. And once that regresses to the mean, then it won't be a very good team anymore. Yeah. I don't really necessarily buy that because of the way they're playing. But you could look at it that way.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Steve from Clarksville texted in, do I think they're a Stanley Cup team? No. But at the same time, they're only a couple of big wins away from maybe changing this thing up a little bit, and everybody is playing great. We need to get healthy, and when the line changes will be to get that magic combination, I don't know. But I do believe they've got an excellent shot of being a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. So Steve not buying that they're a Stanley Cup contender or anything like that, but maybe they could do some damage in the playoffs.
Well, that's buying. Yeah, we're not asking if you think they're going to win the Cup.
No.
I I mean, it's basically, do you believe they're going to get in, and do you believe that they could be competitive? I mean, I think that's still a massive journey from where what we were talking about a month ago.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, I'm encouraged about the play lately. They may make the playoffs, but I don't see them making it past the first round. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. You're encouraged about the way that they played, and that is a positive sign for the future moving forward. But maybe you don't feel like they've got what it takes to get out of the first round. And then if you feel that way, that question becomes, all right, well, how does that approach what you do coming up on Monday at the trade deadline? Do you let that cloud your judgment if you're David Poile of you feel much better about the way the team has been playing and you just let it ride? I mean, I said it at Call Your Shot Friday. My move would still be a soft sell to some degree, but I don't think it's going to happen. Like I think Monday's going to come and go, and nothing's going to be done by the Predators at the deadline.
Do you think if David Poile were offered a second-round pick for Granlund, still nothing would happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think that would be a big mistake. I think it'd be a big mistake.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying with the way this team has been on a run lately, my expectation is, and I don't know, none of us know, but my gut feeling is Monday comes and goes and nothing happens, and there's no moves that are made by the Predators.
See, like to me, if that's the case, then that's more. It's one of two things. It's an unrealistic view of what this team could do in the postseason, in my opinion, or it is more mind paid to what Jeff Merrick said earlier on the show about the importance for a lot of these teams to get in and get whatever revenue you can get out of getting in and whatever revenue from next year you can get by saying we made the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's more mind paid to that than the future of this roster. And I don't think you can I mean, to me, that's a mistake.
Well, and to that point, like Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet was on the show earlier and talked about that of teams, you're wanting to sell season tickets. You're wanting to get back as close to normal as you can by next year, and just the financial realities that are facing some teams in the NHL right now. And the playoffs could go a long way towards, building up that excitement. But my question for Predators fans would be, like, what would you be more excited about? Continuing to pick up future assets and watch your younger players develop heading into next year, or, making the playoffs and getting put out in the first round? Now, I realize those don't have to be mutually exclusive. Like,
right.
You can do the same and you can do both at the same time, but I just wonder, like, of those two options, which one excites you more if you're a Predators fan?
I mean, the way this team is playing, there's a lot going on with this team. A lot of good up and down the lineup. I mean, that fourth line is a joy to watch. The way it's all going, you're going to tell me that taking Granlund out of this lineup just totally derails them?
I don't
Especially
think so.
when you think of who's coming back soon? I don't think so at all. Holla, what are you going to get for Eric Holla?
The return's not going to
be a lot, but I still think, I mean, look, you got depth when everybody's healthy. You've got young guys. What would be bad about getting something out of that expiring deal?
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Mark from the Borough, who's called in. Mark, thanks for calling in to Robby and Rexrode.
Hey, guys, enjoy the show.
Thank you.
What I was going to say is, early in the season, this team was, to be honest, was tough to watch. I've enjoyed seeing the young guys come in, get some playing time. Seems like they're hungry, they're fighting hard. My only issue is with Granlund. If they don't get rid of him, I don't see him re-signing at all. So to me, that's just, with Duchesne coming back, you put him in Granlund's spot. I don't see, obviously, a drop-off there. But it worries me that people are getting, a little too excited, and we're just going to lose Granlund next year, not get any draft picks, refill the cupboard, so to speak. Just kind of, you guys have touched on that. Just kind of want to see your thoughts on that. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for the call, Mark.
Thanks,
I appreciate it. I think that's a legitimate concern. And we've had some people bring up, like, what are the chances that Granlund is back in the fold? Like, you can get him re-signed, and he can be a part of things moving forward. I mean, I think it's obvious. John Hines loves him. And what's not to love? I think Granlund, ever since Hines has been the head coach, has played really well for this group. Can you get him in on a long-term deal at a price that you're comfortable with? I mean, that's a question I think worth asking. And it's not just about what your salary cap situation for your team looks like next year. What's it going to look like for the next 3 to 4 years? You've still got Philip Forsberg, a new contract you've got to work out. if you decide to keep Matthias Ekholm, you've got a new contract for him you're going to have to work out. What's going to happen with Johansson and Duchesne? Are one of them gone next year? Are both of them gone at some point? I mean, these are questions that you've got to try to find an answer to before you can determine whether or not, Granlund is a part of things moving forward.
I mean, if you have obviously you have some level of intel on even just like how happy a guy is living in the
Sure.
city you're in, and you probably have a decent feel in a lot of these situations as a GM. But you can't know for sure. Let me ask you this: if you were John Hines, how would you rank Johansson, Duchesne, Granlund in terms of players you'd want as part of your future?
Based on what he's seen in his tenure with the Predators, I don't know how Granlund's not at number 1 on that list. I don't. I mean, just based on what he's seen, yeah, I think Granlund would be number 1. I think Duchesne's probably a distant third in that. Just my opinion.
I mean,
based on what he's seen and since he's taken over as head coach.
Well, he has seen Johansson in the bubble go nuts, and it was like,
yes,
which was one of those. Oh yeah, but also what happened? Yeah. Now I don't know what is this year for Johansson?
It's not been great.
It hasn't been bubble level.
No,
he's been more noticeable since his injury.
Yes.
Has it been better than last regular season? Probably. Maybe not in production, but in play. You don't think so?
Maybe a little bit, but you're not getting paid $8 million to not have production.
Yeah,
like that's the bottom line.
So you could look at it from the perspective of, okay, Granlund is someone they want to be part of the future. They're hoping to re-sign him, and there's gonna be bigger moves down the road that clear up the money.
Problem is, those moves are hard to come by with these two that we're talking about.
Right.
Like, this is not going to be easy. If you decide to move on from Johansson or Duchesne, it's not going to be easy to do, especially with and that's the other part, like the financial realities of the pandemic. Is Seattle coming into the league? Are they going to want to take on an $8 million per year contract? If you want to trade them, like, does anybody want those contracts? Like,
they're going to have to get to a floor.
I mean, they are, but I still think if you're gonna get Seattle to take one of those two, you're probably gonna have to give up an asset along with it that you don't want to do. So are you okay with that if you're the Predators? And this is going to be, I think, a lot more complicated than people realize.
The only answer really is to buy Monday and go win the cup.
Yes.
And that's really all there is left.
Just go win the whole thing. That's the answer.
Like in Major League?
That's right.
When they have the what was it in the locker room that they had?
Well, the picture of the owner.
Yeah. Right.
Of
you guys stink.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of feels a little reminiscent of the entire fan base saying you guys stink, and now they're rallying together.
There they are.
Maybe they could have like a poster of Stillman. And
maybe so.
Pull away.
Just start peeling those off.
Pull away until we see him in his workout
Stillman
outfit.
in a Speedo?
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to play for that? We'll continue the discussions on the Predators when we come back. Taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Right now, though, got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, and I'm so excited that baseball is back. There's nothing quite like watching a game with the great weather we've got right now, a cold drink, and a little action on the FanDuel Sportsbook as well. If you've never bet on baseball before, now is the perfect time to give it a shot. FanDuel is letting new users swing for the fences risk-free. You'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. And once you've got an account, you can get up to $25 back every day if your same-game parlay bet falls one leg short. This way, you can combine multiple baseball bets for an even bigger win all season long. There's a reason FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. The app is very simple to use. They've got unique fun bet types like the same game parlay and always on promotions to let you get more action out of every game day. And when you win on FanDuel, they pay you safely in as little as 24 hours. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up with promo code ROB to get in on the action. That's FanDuel Sportsbook. Promo code ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only for risk-free bet. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
I think that, Monday comes and goes, probably with Nashville being a quiet team that we don't hear a lot of noise around, unless it's a small deal with Granlund or a small deal with Eric Halla. I don't necessarily see Nashville as making the big splash. Now, this can all change if someone calls David Poile and knocks his socks off for a deal for Matthias Ekholm and Philip Forsberg or Ryan Ellis or whomever. But I don't know that I see that happening in a flat cap universe right now.
That was Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet on with us earlier in the show discussing the trade deadline coming up on Monday and expecting not very much activity for the Predators heading into the deadline with the run that they've been on as of late, winners of 11 out of their last 13 games. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Predators on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Shane from Ashland City texts in, says, we weren't a cup contender when we swept the President winners and the Blackhawks either. You got to keep your head up. Go Preds. So another comparison to 2017 where nobody gave them a chance heading into that series. Why can't this year be any different?
Yeah. Well, again, that was a team that won a playoff series the year before, got San Jose to 7 after that, and was one game away from getting to the conference finals, and then made a huge deal to go for it, and had a young, really good team that was up and down in injuries, and was a disappointing season overall, regular season.
Yeah.
But that was not this. Although, again, this season is also like two completely different seasons
really
at this
is.
point. So
It really is.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is sports. It's great. We can sit here and predict all we want, and I have no idea what we're going to get night after night. But they are playing awfully well.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lindsay texts in, why change the team in terms of trading players when the Predators are winning games? That's the battle that David Poile has right now.
Well, because you still have to look at a larger sample of over years, where are things going? And they still – I mean, right now they've made this incredible run to get themselves into the last playoff spot.
Yeah.
So, that's not what you want. You want since the President's Trophy year of 2018, it has been, since that loss to Winnipeg, it has been the wrong direction overall. That's why. So do you need to start thinking about doing things to get you back going the right way and improve your long-term outlook with young players and assets?
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chip from Mount Juliet texted in, soft sell, yes. You can't let the recent wins cloud judgment. You get pieces and trades when you can. They were losing when their high-priced pieces were healthy. And that is interesting. Like, we've talked about maybe getting some more bodies back and available, whether it's Forsberg or Duchesne or Ellis or even guys like Carrier and some of the losses they've had on some lower-level guys as well. What do you do if you're John Hines when these bodies start to come back? Now, we had Terry Crisp on in the last hour, and he talked about, this unwritten rule in hockey that you don't lose your job to injury. And I think most people largely operate that way. And look, I mean, when Forsberg comes back, he's going to play. When Ellis is able to come back, he's going to play. I feel largely the same way about Duchesne as well, although I do think, like, if you keep Granlund, does Duchesne move to the wing? Like, what do? Do you move Granlund back to the wing? I'd probably keep Granlund exactly where he is right now. I don't know if I'd mess with that too much. So that's an interesting question of, like, where exactly does Duchesne fit in if he comes back?
A trade makes that easy.
It does. It does. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, not saying this will happen because I don't think it will, but what would y'all think of the Preds if they made the playoffs and swept whatever team they played in the first round? I'd probably think exactly what I thought in 2017. Whoa, here we go.
The funny thing is, that year, most of us picked, the Blackhawks to win, right? But certainly a whole bunch of people said, look at the West, and if they do somehow win this series, they could really go on a run, which they did. Like, if they were to beat Carolina or Tampa Bay in the first round, especially like Carolina, I'd still be like, okay, now they're about to lose in 5 to Tampa Bay. I mean, that's just how That's how this division breaks down for them this year, to me.
The equivalent of that would be beating Tampa Bay in the first round.
Yes.
Because Goliath was out of the way in the first round.
Except that I think Carolina would look a lot scarier than anything they could have faced in 17 after Chicago. No?
No doubt.
Yeah. Agreed.
I agree.
Okay. You were shaking your head like in shame, but you were shaking your head in agreement.
In agreement.
Correct.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kyle texted in, guys, quit being downers. We're playing really well, and we just wait and see how we do in the next 10 games. It'll tell us how we will do if we make the playoffs. Keep the faith. The problem with that is you have until Monday to make a decision. You can't wait 10 games. You got to make a decision right now. This is the weekend to make a decision. You can't wait 10 games.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to be a downer. It's been, again, I think we've talked a ton about how impressive they've been, and it's been really fun to watch. Like earlier, a caller called in who, and I think he was saying he prefers to sell, but still, like this team was not fun to watch early this year. It got to the point where I was like, it's just not. It's not a good watch. It is a very fun watch right now because
it's night and day.
You know, whenever a team does, even if you can't sit there and point out every little thing a team's doing, a hockey team, you can tell when a team is spilling it shift after shift and playing with great chemistry, and this team is that right now. And I will say, when you play like this, if you just can add skill and have the exact same buy-in and effort and desperation and energy, okay, I could see that team being kind of dangerous.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. George Scoville texting in. Want to ask you your thoughts on Cunning's value in this way. If Ryan Francis in Seattle tells you that he'll take Duchesne or Johansson's full contract only if Cunning is included, do you make that deal if you're the GM? That's tough.
I don't know.
That would be kind of like what Vegas did with Florida. Was it Florida when they got Marchessault and Riley Smith?
Yep.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, Cunning's really good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He looks pretty good right now.
Right. I mean,
he's a tough one.
He's one of those young forwards that you hope is part of your future and that he continues to progress. And he's a guy John Hines has talked about, right?
Yeah.
On the buy-in part.
Yeah.
He figured it out.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kevin texted in, Stillman and Speedo should never be used in the same sentence. You blame Joe Rexrode and Joe Rexrode alone.
Porth said the word Speedo.
Well, he actually walked across the pedestrian bridge in a Speedo because he picked the Blackhawks to sweep the Preds.
God,
What?
I'm thankful I missed that.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Oh, man.
This was like a promotion you guys did?
Well, not a promotion that we did.
That's a great way
Is this a live remote?
Yeah.
It was not a live remote.
Was there a video of this? Like
I
it's
hope not.
confirmed that he did this.
Yes.
Okay.
I
take your
didn't-
word for it.
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Christopher on Periscope asks, here's an interesting question. Can the Preds reasonably move up in the standings to the first or second spot?
Nah.
I would say no. I mean, unless you just totally dominate Carolina and Tampa Bay the rest of the way and they fall off. But
And even
right
then,
now you're 11 points behind Tampa. You're 12 points behind Carolina. That's not going to happen.
so even if you dominate them, like they'd also have to
yeah.
help and beyond that.
Sure.
That's not realistic.
You'd also have to win every game
Yeah.
from here on out.
Well,
too.
there's not much.
Maybe they will.
There's not much runway left in the regular
No,
season.
There's not. So I would say that's borderline impossible at this point. When we come back, it is time for weekend winners here on the program. It was a great week for Joe Rexrode last week. It was awful for me, and that is becoming quite a consistent theme here on our show. We'll do that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you now
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is that time for weekend winners here on Robby and Rexrode, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. We've got some predictions to make for this weekend in the world of sports. Against the spread, a little bit of money line action in there as well. We go all over the map. We've even got an over and under on the table today as well. So we'll get to all that coming up. Joe Rexrode, let's mercifully have a quick recap of the standings and our performance from last week.
Well, now, hold on now. I feel like, just like today we've kind of talked about, can we appreciate the Preds and how they've been playing? Yeah, maybe they need to sell. Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs. We need to appreciate what they're doing. I think we need to appreciate greatness here. So I just want to quickly go through my 6-0 week. Arizona, UConn, Zona lock with 13.5 points, W. South Carolina, Stanford, -6. South Carolina, W. Grizzlies, -6 for the T-Wolves. Grizzlies, W. What else do we have here? Oh, then the ones that we all picked. The Preds winning against the Blackhawks. UCLA covering 14 against Gonzaga. Baylor covering, giving 5 against Houston. My gosh, it was glorious and beautiful.
I'm glad you like it.
I just want to sit here for a minute and bask in it.
I know what you were doing. Are you done?
I don't know. I was actually looking in there to Porth to see if he was going to say anything. So I went 6-0, 7 points. Porth went 2-4, didn't get his lock, 2 points. Robby went 1-5, 1 point. Here are our standings: 24-12 for me, 30 points, 6-0 on my locks. I'm starting to feel like maybe Joey the Greek should be my nickname, but I don't know. For those of you still mad at me about that Michigan State UCLA over/under, maybe you should reconsider. Porth, you're 21-15, 24 points, 3-3 on your locks. Robby, you're 15-21, 17 points, 2-4 on your locks.
Just brutal.
Wait, can you repeat his record again?
15-21, 17 points.
Are you listening today?
2-4 on his locks.
I'm multitasking.
Okay, all right. I'm just wondering.
That's what I'm doing today.
Oh, did you not hear me talk about all my wins? I can go through them again.
No.
God,
We've heard you all week talk about how you were 6-0.
All right, so it's this time of the week to revisit this competition. I need a redo. It's time for me to get back in the winning circle here. Weekend winners. We got 2 games to pick with the Preds. We've got an over-under in place as well, and then we've got our individual picks. Let's start with the Preds taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday. I will start with this game. I know a lot of people are going to be tempted to take the Lightning in this game. Give me the Nashville Predators money line. I think they keep this thing going. They beat the Lightning at home on Saturday, and then you're really going to have Predators fans feeling really good after this game. Give me the Preds, the money line against the Lightning.
Feel like the attitude of the fan base is going to change if they beat the Lightning tomorrow night.
Agreed. I agree 1,000%. Ryan Porth, the Predators and the Lightning. Who wins on Saturday?
Kind of think the Lightning got a little bit back on track last night against Columbus.
They look good.
They haven't been playing all that well in the last 10 to 12 games.
They're bored. They're ready for the playoffs.
I'm going with Tampa Bay.
Okay. Joe Rexrode.
Yeah, just to be clear, you mentioned my line. That's what we're doing with these, right?
With the Preds, yes.
Yeah, we're just doing my line. Yeah.
Correct.
This one, I mean, I've already called the shot, so I guess you know what I'm doing. Yep. But it is a very tough call, obviously, but I'm going to go with Preds. I think this is the game they've been building toward to kind of prove that they belong, and I think they're going to get it done.
Ryan Porth, the Predators taking on the Dallas Stars on Sunday at home, the second game of a back-to-back. Preds Stars money line. Who are you taking?
Preds.
Ooh, very confident. Zero hesitation.
I'm taking the Preds against the Stars. It's been a very back-and-forth season series. The last time they played the Stars was like 10 days ago.
Yep.
At home, they lost. I think they returned the favor, and they beat the Stars.
Joe Rexrode, the Stars and the Predators. Who are you taking in this matchup?
Well, Port's going to have a chance to make up some ground on me here. I'm going Stars. I think the Stars right now, it's just a match. They can't really slip up much more.
Yep.
And I like how they played against the Preds the last 2 times they played each other. I think they come in here and get it done. The Preds kind of flying high after beating Tampa Bay. So I'm playing out the whole weekend in my head, and I'm going to go with the Stars.
I'm going with the Dallas Stars as well. So, yes, that means I have the Predators beating the Lightning and then losing to the Dallas Stars. I think that's the way things shake out coming up this weekend. All right, over under Jack Leiter, 11.5 strikeouts. Vanderbilt taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. It did not go well for Vanderbilt last night against Georgia. And Tim Corbin, if you read some of the comments after the game, not very happy either with the performance last night.
He said some things that we cannot replay on the radio.
He did. So very upset, Tim Corbin. And we talk about a guy that hates to lose. I think that may be the guy that hates to lose more than anybody I've ever seen.
One thing he did say we can say is I think he said Georgia had machine guns, we had squirt guns.
Yes, that's exactly how it went. So Jack Leiter on the mound, I would assume tonight for Vanderbilt. We're setting the over-under at 11.5 strikeouts for Jack Leiter in this game. Joe Rexrode, we begin with you. Over or under 11.5 strikeouts for Jack Leiter?
Last time we did this, I went under.
Yep.
But I've kind of gone back and forth. I feel like he's going to be pumped to get Vanderbilt back. I think Georgia's a little happy with itself. And actually, I mean, Rocker still had a bunch of strikeouts last night. So give me the over, Leiter.
Okay.
I'm getting him with a dozen tonight.
I am going to take the under in this matchup. I think he finishes with 11 strikeouts on the dot, and that is under 11.5. Give me the under for Jack Leiter. Ryan Porth, over under 11.5.
Under. That's such a large number.
It is, but he's pretty good.
He's darn good.
Yeah.
That's still a large number, so I'm going to play the odds and go under.
All righty, now is the portion of Weekend Winners where we get into our individual picks. Ryan Porth, we begin with you, your first edition of the individual picks this weekend.
All right, so the Dodgers are raising a banner today at home against the Nationals. The Dodgers minus 1.5 against the Nats. Walker Buehler on the mound for the Dodgers against Joe Ross, who you never know what you're going to get out of Joe Ross, but Walker Buehler is usually pretty consistent. Give me the Dodgers minus 1.5.
I'm going to go with the NBA for my first pick. And the Grizzlies have been playing really well as of late. We've gotten some love for the Grizzlies on our text line, driven by Knicks by almost double digits, by 8 or 9 points tonight. Give me the Grizz and make it my lock against the New York Knicks. I got a lot of faith in the Memphis Grizzlies in this competition. Joe Rexrode, your first round of individual picks.
I'm not going to do the exact same lock that you did. I was thinking about it, but I will not. But first of all, go ahead and give me that game without a lock because that's exactly my pick. So I'm going Grizzlies minus 1.5 against the Knicks.
All right.
Not a lock, though. I got another lock in mind.
All right. So you can begin the second round of your individual picks. Which direction are you going with that?
The Golden State Warriors not been, they're in a little bit desperate situation. They've been a little banged up. They got their guys back. They're home against the bad Wizards, and it's Golden State minus 4.5. Give me the Warriors minus 4.5. Make that my lock.
I like that.
All right.
A lot of faith in the Golden State Warriors. Ryan Porth, your second round of your individual picks.
Staying with baseball and going tonight to the desert where my Cincinnati Reds are taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't like the pitching matchup for keeping the score low, so give me over 8.5 runs between the Reds and the D-backs tonight. The Reds' offense has been hot. Arizona's offense hot and cold. Give me over 8.5.
Over 8.5 in the game tonight with your beloved Cincinnati Reds. I'm sticking with the NBA for my second pick. The Bucks hosting the Charlotte Hornets tonight, minus 8 for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they cover. It's a big line. You've got minus 8 on the board. They cover against the Hornets. Give me the Bucks minus the 8. The final round of the individual picks, I will start. And, Joe, I've got to tell you, I'm a little gun-shy now with this because I've not been doing very well with NHL picks lately, but I'm going to try it once again in this competition. Give me the Colorado Avalanche minus 1.5 against the Anaheim Ducks tonight.
That's tricky.
It is tricky.
The Ducks have played the Avalanche pretty well this year.
I know it, but I have faith.
All right.
In the Colorado Avalanche. Ryan Porth, your final individual pick.
Also going with hockey. This is my lock. I have been burned. If anybody knows me, you know that I have been upset at the Ottawa Senators all season long.
You have.
Particularly when they've been playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm not going to be upset tomorrow night. Leafs minus 1.5 against the Sens at home. Hockey night in Canada. Lock.
Ooh, lots of faith in the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like that.
The Leafs are on a roll. Call them butter.
Jeez. You ought to be disqualified just for that comment. Joe Rexrode, your final round of individual picks.
If at some point, I may take the time to go back and look at just the hockey.
It's bad.
It's been
It's not good.
atrocious.
It's bad.
It has killed you guys.
It's not going to kill me tomorrow, though.
All right.
You ever going to get in there with hockey? Or?
Heck no.
Okay.
I'm honestly
baseball?
Both of those are, to me, scare me.
So what are you going to be doing in June?
Yeah. NBA, baby.
Well.
I'm all NBA. And I'm going NBA again tonight. I'm going to go. The Nuggets have been terrific. It's been a heck of a year for them. The Spurs hanging on, trying to get in the playoffs. Nuggets at home, -8.5. I think the Spurs make it closer than that. I think it's a good game, so give me the Spurs in the 8.5 at Denver.
Lots of faith in Greg Popovich here on the program from Joe Rexrode. That is today's edition of Weekend Winners. Hoping for a better performance from me and a worse performance from Joe Rexrode. Ryan Porth, I suppose you could be the same.
Porth is he's different from me in all three of the things that we're doing. So this could be the week it gets a little tighter.
This could be a game changer, that's for sure. That has been today's edition of Weekend Winners. When we come back, it's time for Free Beer Friday trivia and also a Masters update as well on the way coming up next. But right now, 102.5 The Game and T-Mobile have teamed up to give away a hockey home gating party. It's time to text the word goalie to 615-737-1025. That's goalie to 615-737-1025. Now to enter for a chance to win a Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. You must be 21 or older to enter. We'll be right back here on Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Ryan Porth is back in his element. That means it's time for Free Beer Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. Luke Combs bringing us back into the segment here on the program, much to the delight of our very own Joe Rexrode.
Yeah, put that right with some Blink-182. Imagine the – have they ever played a concert together?
I'm going to severely doubt it. What a combo that would be, Blink-182 and Luke Combs. See if we can get that in the works here somewhere in Nashville.
That kind of sounds like it would happen at Bonnaroo.
Right, and then like Creed could show up. It'd be
Yeah.
like the best jam session ever, man.
It'd be amazing. Could really get going there. So it is time for Free Beer Friday here on Robby and Rexrode.
Free
for
beer!
Your opportunity for a chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. If you can guess, or not guess is not the right word, you need to know. You need to know the correct answer to Ryan Port's trivia question, which he is about to unveil. If you know it, be the first texter to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Ryan Porth, I turn it over to you for today's Free Beer Friday trivia question.
Yes, a tradition unlike any other.
Thank you.
The Masters. That is where the trivia question lies today. And it's kind of it's a straightforward question. Who is the last golfer to win the Masters via a playoff following the final round?
Ooh. The last golfer to win the Masters via a playoff following the final round. If you know the answer to that question, be the first texter at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, and you have a chance to win a $25 gift card to Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall.
Much to my dismay, I think I know this answer.
We're not going too far back in the Masters history books.
A little hint. A little hint from Ryan Porth. We'll check the text line for an update on the winner here in just a few minutes. But until then, Ryan Porth, it is also time for the Masters update today, which I know you're very excited about. Today's Masters T-Mobile 5G leaderboard is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Ryan Porth, I turn things back over to you for the Masters leaderboard update.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Round 2 underway in Augusta. Cinderella story at Augusta. As I load the leaderboard,
Ryan Porth
and
bringing
quote
his,
Caddyshack.
as Heidi said yesterday, his cute golf voice back to the table.
Yes. Justin Rose came into round 2 at 7 under. He is now at 6 under, so he is at +1 for the day through 4 holes. And 4 golfers tied for second at 3 under. So Justin Rose still with a nice lead in Augusta for round 2. Jordan Spieth will tee off in 4 minutes exactly.
Okay.
He is
tee off.
tied for 11th on the leaderboard, still at 1 under because he still has not teed off. So Jordan Spieth, he's someone to watch today on this leaderboard.
One of many.
As we update you all day long. And let's see. Has Bryson DeChambeau teed off yet? Has he hit one in the woods yet?
Wow.
Actually, he is even through 1 hole.
Yeah, they showed him up here.
Yeah, the Hulk is underway at Augusta.
Ryan Porth calling that he misses the cut.
Yeah.
Today.
I do. So that is your leaderboard update from Augusta.
That has been the Masters T-Mobile 5G leaderboard update brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network.
Very nice.
Ryan Porth's voice continues to inspire people across the country.
What will people do the next 2 days without that?
Maybe we'll have to do one online, Porth. This could be something that you just called to do from now on.
It will be nothing like what Chris Vernon does.
Well, that's true. Have you seen this? You have to look it up. Chris Vernon does a Masters update where he just basically rapped for 6.5 minutes. It was unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's Chris Vernon?
He's a media guy in Memphis.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
He's a basketball guy. I'm surprised you don't know him, Joe. Come on, basketball nerd.
Open your eyes, Rexrode.
Maybe I follow him on Twitter. I just didn't realize it.
Maybe so. Christopher on Periscope asks, has Porth seen Caddyshack?
Yes.
Hey, look, your movie selection's not very wide. I think it's a fair question by Christopher.
He just made a reference to it. So.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm passing the questions along.
I'm telling the texter.
Porth, do we have a winner yet?
We do have a winner,
All
and
right.
it's from one of our, I guess you could call season ticket holders on our text line. Joey from Gallatin.
Yes.
got Sergio Garcia correct as the last golfer to win the Masters via the playoff.
When was that? Was that like 2013?
17.
I was actually going to say 5
quicker
years
than
ago.
I thought.
4 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, like to be within a year and stuff like that.
It's pretty good.
Good for you, Joe.
Thank you. I'm always
and he
excited about
defeated the current leader, Justin Rose.
Yeah.
In the playoff.
So congratulations to Joey from Gallatin, today's winner of a $25 Bavarian Beer House gift card that you can go enjoy at Opry Mills Mall here on the program. Another phenomenal trivia question here on Free Beer Friday from Ryan Porth. Well done.
That might have been a little easy.
Well, look, I mean, we've gone deep in the weeds with a few of these. Like, I was worried last week. Elijah had a good question, but, I mean, it was pretty deep. It was pretty deep stuff.
Yeah, you got to find that balance.
Was it that easy, though? I mean, we're getting a lot of wrong answers in the text line.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
Bubba Watson,
sign.
Dustin Johnson.
Any Tiger?
Dustin Johnson won it last year for the first time and blew everybody away.
Yeah.
No.
No Tiger. Christopher asked back, just because you can quote something doesn't mean you've seen it, Joe.
That's fair. That's true. Nowadays, you could see a GIF of something and just quote it and not have the proper context. But I believe Porth that he's seen the movie.
Cinderella story at Augusta.
Porth is a very honorable man here on the program.
And to prove that I know that movie, that is Bill Murray.
Hey, look, he's
saying that
going
quote.
deep in the woods.
And that movie also has Chevy Chase.
What kind of candy bar did he eat out of the pool?
Oh, I can't remember that.
Oh, I don't know. Now I have my doubts. It's a Baby Ruth.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Ugh.
Duty.
You talk about a gross candy bar.
Oh, really? I love Baby Ruth. Baby Ruth's very underrated.
I don't think so. I think it's properly rated.
It's just like a Snickers. It's hardly different from a Snickers.
It's a little bit different. I think so.
A little bit.
You like Snickers?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Twix is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a Kit Kat guy.
Kit
Love
Kat?
me some Kit Kat.
That's good. I think Reese's Cup is the perfect
it's
candy.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Break me off a piece of that football cream. Where's that from?
I have no clue.
I have no idea.
The Office.
Sure. There you go. Way to go.
Oh, yeah.
You not seen that episode?
Yeah. No, I remember it now.
All right.
It's Andy, right? Trying
Yes.
to remember the end of the jingle the whole time. Right.
And
yeah,
Jim's like, you're so close.
Yeah.
Preds fans, if you've missed any episodes of Smashville Live, you can find those at theGameNashville.com/Smashville Live, featuring Preds players, former players, and other special guests. You can watch the show online this year via 1025 The Game's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and theGameNashville.com. Smashville Live, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. Fellas, good show today. That was fun stuff. Going to be interesting to see how the Predators fare this weekend, both against Tampa Bay and against Dallas, and certainly going to be an interesting show on Monday with the NHL trade deadline coming back.
It certainly will. And, I mean, honestly, I'm rooting for both you guys to make weekend winners somewhat competitive.
Thank you.
I mean, it can't be just a complete blowout.
That's right. Just get one last shot in before we
I'm
leave.
rooting for you.
You're going 0-6 this weekend.
That's right. This is going to be a just total fail for you. That does it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. Darren Donica Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 1025 The Game.
This hour of Robby and Rexrode is brought to you by Train. Get a great